All right, you're back here on the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. And you know what? We made it. We're celebrating our seventh birthday, or I guess the beginning of our seventh birthday. This is the seventh year we are bringing you the Gill Connections podcast. This started way back in January of 2020, right before the world shut down, if you will. And we're on episode 340 something. So we've had over 340 coaches to bless us, sit down here and share their journey, how they got into track, how they got into coaching, the lessons learned, the mentors along the way. And, 7 years on, I am still as pumped today for today's guest as I was my very first guest. I am just, it's a real privilege that I have to sit in this chair and be able to interview the men and women who choose to be track coaches, because what they do, what you do, listeners, you're mostly track coaches. What you do, the positive impact that you make on young people. You don't get thanked enough. You should. You don't get paid enough. You should. And so my coaching advocacy is to help bring coaches from around the country and sometimes around the world, and to show you that there's more than one way to get it done. And I know today's guest really well in that regard. So you're going to have a lot of fun with this. So help me welcome the assistant coach, the throws coach down at the great University of Texas. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. Mo Saatara.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Mo. Man, how are you doing today, bud?
Doing great. It's a great day. It's always a great day to be able to do what you love to do. So I'm really happy and excited.
You're in I love your attitude, bro.
Yeah.
You're in the great city of Austin. I really do like Austin a lot. How's the weather down there, man? Is it like still?
Well, it's been really warm, but today we got a little briskness. It's about 55, 58 degrees. A little
Oh,
wind going on, but it's good. It's real nice.
I was gonna make fun. You said it was a little brisk. I'm like, what is it? 70 degrees? Oh, it's
Yeah,
55.
it's
That's kind
80
of
degrees.
chilly.
It's cool. I gotta get
Yeah.
my park out. It's 80 degrees.
So it's a little chilly at 55.
Yeah,
That's a little cold. Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, appreciate you being here. Kicking off season 7. We're super excited. This week as well, when it's published, the first week of January, I will be in Waco for the TTFCA, the Texas Track and Field Coaches
all right.
Association. So what a great way to tie in Texas and the University of Texas, and bring it all together and learn more about your journey in this great profession, my friend.
Hook 'em.
That's
There
right.
you
Exactly.
go.
You got to
Yeah.
learn that. That's right. You gotta learn. Texas is unique, the whole state, right? So all the schools have that, right? The hook 'em, the sick 'em,
Yeah.
the gig 'em. What else is
All that
there?
stuff. Yeah.
All of them. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
They crazy down there. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, my friend, let's jump into, because we got a big history here. This is what's awesome is if you're tuning in because you recognize Mo's name as the great discus coach at Cal Berkeley with Alekna and the records and all this kind of stuff, right? That's cool. We're going to get to that 100%. We're going to talk about what a great journey he's had. But here's the thing, and this happens sometimes in our profession. As a guy who's been around this profession for over 30 years now, or at least near 30 years, sometimes we get trapped into the name of the school, right? And the coach, when they go from high school to college, or go from quote unquote small school to quote unquote big school, all of a sudden now they're smart. Now people want to talk to them. Mo is not a good coach just today. We're going to find out. Mo's been getting it done for a long time. And so I'm super excited to kind of bust that myth that just because he's now at Texas, or because he had Alekna, that he was, now he's become this good coach. He's got a great foundation, and I can't wait to explore that. So Mo, jumping our Wayback Machine here, assuming you're an athlete, and I actually don't know about this. So we've
You
been
can use
talking.
the term athlete loosely. So
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, same. We have a lot in common there. Where does track and field start for you?
yeah, got into track. Just it was a random thing actually. I remember it was like I think seventh grade, or I think yeah, seventh or eighth grade. I don't quite remember anymore. But we had this thing on our PE class. This is in Azusa, California, and I went to the Foothill Junior College. Actually, no, I'm sorry, Foothill Junior High School.
Hmm.
Okay, there was I think it was a Trojans is what it was. Anyway, so we had this thing where it was a basically run, jump, and throw, like track and field day. It was
Hmm.
kind of a leftover from the '84 Olympics. Yeah, the I don't know if you know about the Olympic
Yes.
amateur athletic stuff they had and
Right.
all that business. It was
Hmm.
really cool. So they had this thing at our school, and you got to run and throw and do hurdles and I don't know, high jump and whatever else they got going on. So we did all that, and the my PE teacher, I don't remember his name, but he was a real nice guy. He's like, hey, you know what? You're really good at running. which I thought was funny because I really hate running. And he's like, "You're really good at this sprinting stuff, and you throw the shot okay. So you got a team." And I mean, I'm from Iran. We moved to the U.S. in 1983 with my family, immigrated to the United States and all that. And all I knew about sports was what you saw on TV, Olympic Games and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
if you want to do something like that, you had to be like a great champion. Nobody thought about like teams when you were a kid, any of that stuff. That it was just
Right.
basically like you got selected to do sports, and that's all you did. And that was the way it was. So the idea of like, hey, you have a team at your school was completely foreign. Like it was just like,
Right.
what? There's a team for like track and field, like. So I told my parents, and they're like, yeah, go try it. We're trying to meet friends and just
Yeah.
get socialized and all that business. So yeah, I went out for the team. I wasn't very good at it, but I was okay. There's a lot of guys that were way better than me, and I kind of got to doing track, and then I played football, like in high school, and the track coach is like, hey, we need guys for the track team, come out for track. So I started throwing discus and shot, and sort of like I guess we'll come back to. So I met some of the very important people that made a big impact on my life. I mean,
Right.
huge impact on my life, and I never thought of myself as being a coach or an athlete or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just kind of something that I like, and I started getting better and better at it. Um, Not the super best one. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, just so you know, my knowledge of at the time, my knowledge of like how high school sports worked, I didn't even know there was a state championship in California. So when I was a senior in high school, went to the CIF. It was you made it to. The way it worked was you go to CIF is the southern section is gigantic. There's like
Yeah.
thousands of athletes, hundreds of schools, all sorts of stuff. So you go to the southern section. I think it's a qualification meet. Then you go to the CIF championships,
Mhm.
and I thought that was it. And I met the Lloyd Higgins, who was a coach at Citrus Community College at the time, and he ended up being a really huge impact on my life. But we go to the championship thing, and then I think I threw like I don't know, like 50 feet or 49 feet or something like that, and like 160 something in discus. Not nothing crazy. It was okay, but
Yeah.
he goes, "Hey, you just barely missed going to the Masters meet." I'm like, "What is the Masters meet?" He's like, "Yeah, that's you go to the Masters meet, then you go to like this state championships." And I'm like, "What? There's more. I mean, I would have tried harder, you know." So
You thought I'm
anyway, so he's
done,
like,
right?
So he was like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do next year? This is in 89, 90, my senior in high school. He's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do in the next year? Anyway, so meanwhile, I didn't have a high school coach or anything like that, so I would just go to the library, and they had these old books on training, and there was like I remember there was a book with Randy Matson on it, and Dallas Long and shot put, and I got the video. I remember, I still actually my wife probably I hope she got rid of this stuff because I have some VHS videos like it was the outfielder box basic 7 foot shot put, and
Yeah.
Mac Wilkins' video, discus throw video, and then there was one from John Paul and Brian Oldfield and those guys. And I just watched these videos and read these books and stuff, and it was kind
Yeah.
of interesting. But I mean, the way we were raised was like you're gonna either be a doctor or a lawyer or an
Mhm.
engineer or something like that. And my family's a lot of doctors and engineers.
So,
So
pause right
yeah,
there, if you will. One of the things that's fascinating, especially for I know for sure for our listeners, but I'm selfish. This is me. I'm the host. I get to be
yeah,
curious about this. We had Miss Susan Seaton over at University of
yeah.
Cincinnati. We had her on the show, and it was fascinating to learn about a completely. I mean, we have different cultures in America, so to learn about her growing up in Germany and what sports were and things like that. What age did you move here from Iran?
We came to the U.S. from Iran when I was 11 years old, 1983,
So
which is
you,
kind of cool because it was 83 was when LA games were going on. We moved to Azusa, and I remember they gave us these little booklets and a bunch of pictures of athletes in it. There was a picture of like Al Order in there, Hal Conley, I don't know, a bunch of these
that's cool.
legends of track and field and everything.
Yeah.
This is the discus throw, and there's a picture of Order throwing. Or this
Right.
is the shot put, and there's a picture of a guy, I think it was Michael Carter or something like that. And
Right.
this is a really cool thing. So uh, for like culturally for us, it's like if you're gonna do sports,
Yeah.
you have to be like the very very best. If you're not, then just go to your life. There's no like
Okay.
in between. Sort of situation. So
And
that was sort of
is track, or at least back when you were growing up to 11, is track a big deal in Iran, or is it more
no
like
no
soccer is what
the
I would assume?
yeah, soccer is like king.
Hmm.
And then, but in Iran, just because of the history and stuff, we could have a podcast about that. This whole thing, wrestling and weightlifting are
Oh,
gigantic.
correct.
Oh,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
huge. I mean, they have stadium like 30,000
Yeah,
person stadium for like
that's right.
wrestling and weightlifting. All that. Those are the big ones. I mean, if you wanted to
That's
do
right.
anything like strength or power, that's what you do.
That's
Like
what
you're
you
a
do.
wrestler or a weightlifter.
So when you moved over here, did you speak English or did you have to learn it here?
Actually, we had gone to a French school right
Oh,
before the revolution and all that stuff, but we didn't know any English. So I'll tell you what, the fastest way to learn English, if somebody wants to learn English, is watch Sesame Street and watch TV shows.
yeah.
It
Hey,
actually works. It, it
no,
it is crazy.
I listened to a podcast about Sesame Street, especially in light of, government cuts and NPR and,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, and how important Sesame Street was to the education of kids in general, from whether you were from affluent, from lower income.
Yeah.
It was and is a big deal for learning English for American kids and for internet. That's
Anybody, yeah,
a
anybody,
great
yeah.
point.
Yeah, we had this teacher when we came here. I was in sixth grade and my brother was in fifth grade. We were in the same class. The lady's name I think was Mrs. Moon or something like that. Victor Hodge School. I remember that. I could pull it out of the memory banks in Azusa, and we didn't know any English, so she told her parents like, "Hey, just have them watch
That's so
Sesame
cool.
Street when you go home," and then I remember we used to watch A Team and Emergency
Yeah.
911, Chips. I mean, if you did your homework, you get a chance to watch these shows. This is back in, that was a like reward. You do a good job, you get to watch TV shows. So we did
Okay.
that,
Okay,
and it really helped.
I'm gonna ask you
Yeah,
another question about this time period. Maybe sensitive, Mo, so please,
sure, no
let
worries.
me know. So during the, because I'm trying to think of my time around 84. I was 8-ish years old, and wrestling, WWE, WWF, whatever, was a big
Oh
deal.
yeah,
And back then there was and probably still, I don't watch wrestling now, but they play on stereotypes and all this kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And you remember, I don't, I'm
Iron
thinking of
Sheik,
it.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
What did, because I'm just trying to think, they sold him up as he was the bad guy. He was the heel
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
America.
yeah.
Like we
Well,
all,
I mean, yeah, the political environment wasn't very good. All sorts of
right.
terrorism and all crazy stuff going
What,
on, and it was rough. I won't
what,
lie to you. It was a rough time. It
yeah,
was it was rough.
what was
Got in a lot of
11?
fights, got in a
Okay.
lot of
Yeah. So you took
scraps,
heat from
and
crap like
yeah, it
that.
was it
Yeah.
was it was it was it was wild. And I mean, sitting back here, like I don't know, almost 40 some odd years later, you look back and like, well, you just kids are being dumb and kids, whatever. That's kids. That's kids. It's okay. But when you're living in it, it wasn't cool. A lot,
Correct.
a lot of,
Yeah.
lot of, lot of struggles and a
Yeah.
lot of things that you probably don't want to go through. I don't
And,
want to share anybody, but yeah, it was some rough times for sure.
and I know you're saying kids being kids,
Yeah.
but sadly, it's also adults to adults do this crap
No,
because of
yeah,
TV
yeah, yeah. I mean,
shows
it's
and all that
just
kind of
yeah,
stuff.
it was just
Uh, but
it
it
was it
just
was
makes me think about, because I was probably that kid, not probably, I was that kid who was like, yeah, the American hero, Hulk Hogan, beat up old Iron Sheik and all that kind of stuff, and not realizing like, oh my God, like people's lives are being
yeah,
negatively affected by this dumb stuff. Let's be real. It's,
yeah.
professional wrestling is dumb stuff. Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you something. My dad had to get a heart surgery, right? That's one of the reasons why we came to the U.S. was so. My older uncle Fred, he lives in Azusa still. Lives probably like about maybe a mile from where we first came to. He came to the U.S. in the 70s. Anyway, so one of the best pieces of advice he ever gave me and my brother was, "You guys are in the U.S. now. You're gonna learn English. You're gonna be American. You're gonna
Yeah.
learn how to work in this country. You're gonna learn how to be a part of this country
Right.
because this is your home now.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing. And one of the things the best thing he said is like, if you're good at what you do, everybody, regardless of how they feel about you or whatever, all that stuff, you can't control that. People are people,
That's right.
good or bad or otherwise. That's the way it is. But if you're good at what you do, and if you're good at producing results,
Right.
whatever that is. I mean, you might be a banker or his
Right.
favorite was, if you're gonna go work, there was a grocery chain called Vaughn's down in Southern
Oh yeah.
California.
Bonds.
And
Yeah.
he said, if you're the grocery clerk at Vaughn's, you better be the best grocery clerk that's ever come to that place.
Yeah.
That's what he always does that. And my mom and dad would say the same thing. And it's like, just learn to be good at what you're doing, be the best
Yeah.
at it. And that theme stayed with me to this day. I was like, whatever I do, I try to be the very, very best
What did
because that people can't argue with results. You know what I
what
mean? That's the mindset.
what did mom and dad do for
Well,
careers?
my dad was a business owner. He was a businessman. He did a lot of investing, and this is back in Iran. We came to the U.S. Didn't do too much, and we owned. That's where my last name comes from. Whether you saw it or they were importers of like watch, like
Yeah.
luxury items and things like that. And my
Yeah, yeah.
mom actually worked for International Red Cross. She did a lot of stuff for women's health
Wow.
and women's rights and stuff around that back before the revolution.
Wow.
Stuff
Very
like that. Yeah,
cool.
it's pretty,
I love that.
very smart people. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the crazy thing that I didn't know until I got a little bit older. I didn't realize how important it was until I got a bit older. It was my dad's aunt was actually the first female doctor in Iran back in
No
19 yeah
way.
1930s or whatever. It was the first Western educated doctor, which is cool.
That's
I had
cool.
no idea about that. And I was like, oh my God, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
People tell you that when you're a kid, and it's like everybody's kids like a, whatever, but everybody, your family members and stuff. But that was really cool. And a lot of my aunts became doctors and all that stuff and,
Wow.
that kind of thing. So it was a, when you look back in your history and you're like, oh my God, this guy's
Yeah.
got some, you got to live up to the hype, right?
Yeah,
That kind of thing,
right. So senior year, you're so I love how innocent you are. You have no clue about a state
And
meet. You're just throwing to throw and oh crap, I could have gone to another meet. So I love
yeah,
that. You started mentioning a college coach started talking about like what are you thinking about
yeah.
next year?
So I'll tell you what, you'll like this one. So John Frazier called my house. John, he had just started coaching at UC Irvine. I think it was kind of the tail end of his throwing career, and he was getting
Yeah.
into coaching.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you what, and my mom passed away in 24, but she would always ask me about Coach Frazier because he had called us about recruiting and talk about not understanding what the hell's going on. And it was like they want you to go to college to like do sports. What the hell is this?
Yeah, that's right.
And you
Coming
went to
from your
this,
background, that's completely
yeah.
foreign, right? Like no
Yeah, yeah,
idea.
that's just what are you talking about? I mean, in Iran there was university clubs like sport clubs, but they were like
Yeah.
professional clubs that just happened to practice at the university. So
Right.
they'll let you be a dentist or a doctor or whatever down once you're done with your sports, but it wasn't like you're going to go to school and do sports. There's
Right.
none of that. Like athletic scholarship, my parents were like, what the hell is this? Like, we're going to pay you to do that doesn't make any sense to them. So that was a culture shock. But I ended up going to. Citrus Community College, and
Hmm.
I used to go to when I was in high school. I used to go jump the fence at Citrus College to throw because
Okay.
we didn't have a throwing ring at this high school. The ring somebody had broken the toe board, so I was rolling around and trying to find somewhere to go. And Azusa Pacific, I was actually right next door to it, and that's when they had the really big throwers back then. I know they had the Nigerian guys, Ade, Lucas Yu, and Christian Okoye. Remember Nigerian Nightmare? Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. They were there, and they had a couple other guys that had hammer throwers, the shot putters and stuff like that, and they used to have the NAIA championships at Azusa Pacific,
That's
and
right.
my high school coach, I think it was Mike Martinez, I think was his name or something like that. He had gone to Azusa Pacific, and he would always take the team to go help out at the NAIA championships, and they would tell us this is NAIA championships. It's not the NCAA championships. I guess they had those somewhere else.
Do you have
Uh,
any clue when they said that though? Like what is NCAA? What is NAIA? Did you have
Yeah,
any?
I was like, okay, well, this is something else. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Someday maybe I get a free lunch out of it. I get to watch go throw things far. I'm happy. I'm good. That's fun. So I started learning more about the throwing events and techniques and all this other stuff, and it was really cool experience to just get that. I became more interested. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
might do something with this.
What are you thinking that before, it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this is kind of thing. What are you thinking about becoming? You mentioned, some,
Well, I was gonna go to medical school.
yeah.
That was my thing. So that's what I studied. Basically, well, Cal State, they changed the name of the major. It's basically biology.
Hmm.
Molecular biology is what it
Got it.
is.
Yeah.
They changed the name like 14 times, so I don't know what it is now. But
Sure.
it's called. It was at the time it was called molecular biology and physiology,
Hmm.
and I ended up being about two classes short of being a chemistry major too. But
Wow.
just couldn't couldn't quite get through. Physical chemistry was my limit. I was like, that's statistics and stuff. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm just the bio stuff. I'm good. So anyway, so I ended up going to Citrus Community College because we just couldn't afford to go to
Mhm.
the UC Irvine and all
Right.
that. So Lloyd, so anyway, so I was in high school and I used to jump the fence at Citrus Community College to go throw, and then there was this older black gentleman that would be out there. I'd see him once in a while. I don't know who he was. It was like 6'6", 6'7", some big guy, big beard. and he'd come out once in a while. He wouldn't say anything to me, and I'd just do my throwing and leave. So one day, I remember it was funny because they had the razor wire on top of this. So I found this like doormat, and I would throw it on the things I could climb on. I was going to rip your pants and shirt and everything else. So I do this whole like thing of putting this thing on it and throwing the shots over and disc over and everything else and going. I get over the fence. And he walks over and says, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I'm throwing here." He's like, "No, you can't throw here. This is my field." He was messing with me. I thought he was serious. I'm like, "Oh crap, I'm in trouble. He's gonna call the cops. I'm gonna get in trouble." He's like, "No, the gate's open. By the way, you can just go through the gate." I never thought about checking because it was closed. I figured it's locked. The gate's open. Why just go
Mo,
through
shut
the gate?
up. Oh
I was like,
my
"What the hell?"
goodness.
So anyway, so that's Coach Higgins really like. He said, "Okay, you're he's like, I've seen you come out here like bunch of times. And you never say anything." I'm like, "Well, I don't know. You guys are doing. I don't know. I'm just trying to stay out of everyone's way, and I get thrown out basically." He's like,
Right,
"No, you
right.
don't throw you out." So he had a group of guys. It was hilarious. It was a really funny experience.
I could see those guys watching you like, what is this idiot
Yeah, yeah,
doing? The
yeah,
gate's
pretty
right
much. He's like,
there.
yeah, we always watch. He's like, watch you do this every weekend. Just come over here, jump over the fence, and these guys are probably taking bets on how many times before I cut my neck off in the damn the fence or whatever. So anyway,
Oh
so
gosh.
he's like, hey, just come with us. He had a couple of high school guys that he was coaching. They had a club. It was called Throw Far.
Hmm.
So later on, I'm sure we're gonna get to it. So he's like, yeah, we got these guys here. One of the guys I remember was Greg Hodel. He ended up going to UCLA. He was a really good thrower. He was our hero because back then, you know, UCLA, the throws program at UCLA was, I mean,
Venegas,
that was
baby.
the gold standard of, I mean,
Hmm.
man, if you get to go to, hell, if you get to go to compete at UCLA, you were like, you made it, man. You're like,
Right,
you're in the, you're in the Valhalla, you're up
right,
there,
right.
so Greg got to go to UCLA, and we were just like in awe of the guy. Like, oh my God, this guy made it to. And then he had a young lady to there, Candy Roberts. I think she coaches at Vanderbilt now, Candice.
Oh
And she
yeah.
had gone. She had gone the year before, I guess. I didn't really know her too much, but I'd seen her practice a couple. And they were throwing. We were like, man, these guys are throwing so far. There's no way we're going to get to that ever. So
Right.
I went to Citrus. We had a group of guys. It was really good throwers actually for junior college, and so I went to Citrus Community College. Got my switched to a science degree and all that there, and I was, I think, seventh in the California State meet.
Yeah.
Uh, Coincidentally, my freshman year was, I think, one of the best years I ever had for discus throwing in California JC. There was a guy named I'll never forget it. I don't know how this happened, but they got a Swedish guy. He was older, and I think his name was Dag Solheim, and I
Okay.
think he has the JC discus record. Maybe Andy Klokanowski broke it at some point, but I think he might have gone to the JC. But this guy, he had thrown like over 200 feet. There's a bunch of
Oh,
guys throwing 180s and 170s and stuff, and it was
yeah.
pretty wild my freshman year. So anyway, so I was throwing, and then as I'm throwing and doing this stuff, I'm getting more and more interested in track and how this training and
Hmm.
coaching and all this business, because I saw coach was so good with everybody and
Right.
really impacted. I mean, it was great for me because at that time my grandfather passed away in Iran. My dad had to go back to Iran. There was back and forth and family stuff and trying to take care of everything. And
Hmm.
and he was a very big stabilizing factor in my life. And my mom would always respect him a lot and say, you listen to coach because he's going to make sure you're okay. And
Right.
all that stuff is really cool. And I got to learn how he was coaching and watch him coach people. And
Hmm.
the good thing he did, which at the time when you go through this, you're like, I hate this. This is crap and BS and everything else. Was he would make us, like, once you learn something, teach it to somebody else. So if you had
Ooh.
you guys coming in, okay, you teach him how to do a half turn or whatever, or you teach him how to do a stance or whatever it was, and then he would also have us help with the meets,
Hmm.
measuring and running the competition. And all of us hated it. We were like, man, this is
Hmm.
busy work. Screw this. And I remember we used to go down to Long Beach State. They had this thing called the Southern California Striders, and they're like, and then later on, I found out the Striders was like one of the big clubs
Big
back in
deal.
the. I
Hmm.
had no idea. There's a bunch of old guys throwing stuff, and I remember there was a guy named I think his name was Stuart Thompson or something like that. He had the world record for masters in the weight throw,
Mm.
and he'd come out. They had a little old dog that he would bring with him and stuff once practice once a month or something like that with us. And coach was like, "Hey, that guy was Olympian." and the hammer throw back when he was younger or something like with the U.S. And he would teach us the history of the sport. Hal Connolly and
Yeah. Yeah.
Lance Steele and all the
Hmm.
guys and all that business, which is very cool. And a funny thing I forgot to put in there was my senior year in high school was the that was when the Soviets had ended, but there was still like the Soviet team came to the U.S. with
Hmm.
Dr. Bondarchuk and
Right.
Yuri Tan, and they had a hammer clinic. They would teach you how to throw hammer. You go there, I
You
think it
got
was
to go to
free.
that?
Yeah, yeah, because it was at Mount Sac. Mount Sac was like literally down the street from where I
Wow.
lived. Like we lived in Azusa, Mount Sac's probably like 8, 9 miles away, something like that. Just drive down the street, you're right there.
I mean, I have to
And
feel like the answer is no, but did you have any idea these two
all
guys? I mean,
all we knew was these guys are like because we'd seen the video, we'd seen the videos of like these guys throwing the world records and stuff, and
right.
Coach Higgins like, hey, this guy, he coached the guy that broke the world record. So we knew like these guys are like gods, like we're just like,
Yeah.
oh my god, these guys are coming to the U.S. and especially like, I mean, growing up in Iran like during the revolution and before that, and
Mm.
Iran's like right next to the Soviet Union, right? Like
Right,
the
right, right.
was right there. So you have a very clear. These
Big
are the
mother
bad
Russia.
guys.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, dude,
Hmm.
these are the bad guys. Those are the good guys, or
Right.
that kind of thing. So we were like, oh my
Hmm.
god, these guys are coming. It's crazy, right?
Wow.
And so I went to this clinic, and they didn't know English, so they're just kind of teaching you how to do stuff, and you kind of do it. And if I would have gone out as me going out, I would have asked like 10 million questions. But I was just like, and the funny thing is, they kept telling Yuri, tell him, hey, take a hammer and throw like a woman's hammer, see how far you can throw it. And I don't know if you remember the old setup at Mount Sac. The
Mm.
ring was on the side, and it was facing a hill, and the bottom of the hill was the I think the U.S. world record was like 80, U.S. national record. I'm sorry,
Right.
81 something was like a little trail there or something like that. So that's the U.S. hammer record right there.
Right.
So he took a woman's hammer throw and threw it into the hill, and you've never seen that. I mean, the first throw I've ever seen with a hammer
Wow.
throw at the time was maybe I saw some guy try to throw 220 at a track meet or something like that. I
Right,
mean,
right.
your
Yeah.
mind blown, right? And anyway, so the year after was when Stuart Toger was doing the United States Hammer development. He came to Azusa Pacific. They came over a few years. I remember Lance Steele came,
Yep.
and they had those things. And Coach Toger was, he wasn't the fluffiest of guys. He was a really knowledgeable coach, but man, he
I, I
felt about you real quick.
I remember one of the OGs, Lance Deal, has been on the podcast, and he
Yeah.
slept on Togar's couch. And I distinctly remember him telling me almost verbatim what you just said there about, yeah, Togar wasn't the nicest guy in the world. Like
No,
you ate,
he
sleep, and
was,
drank
yeah.
hammer. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a lot of sharp edges to him, basically. So he was, I got to go. And the cool thing is, and I hope USATF does something like this again, it
Yeah.
was like a week thing. You go for a whole week. You go twice a day, and they would practice and video and the whole deal. I mean, then they had guys from all levels, beginners, medium
Hmm.
guys like me, guys that were really good, all sorts of people would come in, and he would
Right.
watch you, make you do all these exercises, throwing things and all this stuff, and it was really cool. They just
Yeah.
so I got my interest peaked, like, hey, this is something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got going, and then after junior college, and I think it ended up being like seventh place at the California JC meet in the hammer, and anyway, so I was like, all right, well, that's it, that's the end of my track life. It's time to go to school and on with it, and I think it was after the California State Championship. Coach Higgins goes, hey, the coach is going to call you from Cal State LA. And it just happened that being that we had some financial difficulties, we were like, we got to go somewhere I can afford to go to school,
Right.
apparently.
Right.
And Cal State was one of the schools that had the biology program on it. So I was kind of looking at it, but I didn't think about much more than that.
Right.
And I was like, well, the coach is going to probably call me. He's going to say, hey, you're a JC guy. You're not that good. Get out of here,
Right.
whatever. But the coach happened to be Don Babbitt.
No shot.
Yeah. He called me. He said, hey, I want to recruit you to come throw for Cal State Golden Eagles. And I was like, all right, you're kidding me, right? Because, I'm watching, you watch the results from the NCAAs and stuff. And I'm like, well, the NCAA, I mean, you got to throw like 220 or 230. And he's like, no,
Yeah.
but he's like, he's like, hey, there's Division One, Division Two, Division Three,
You had
NAI,
no
all this
clue.
stuff.
Oh, that's
I
great.
was like, what? So I was like, all right, cool, let's go. So anyway, so as it turned out, he recruited a bunch of guys from junior colleges around Southern California. And at that time, too, like, Coach Higgins was buddies with Ken Pagel. Ken was down in Mesa. Now he's at Syracuse College, but he
Right.
was in Mesa at the time, and we knew the guys. We were buddies with each other and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I know some of the guys that are going there. Let's go and give me a little bit of money and stuff. So it
Yeah.
was good. Started training with Coach Babbitt, and really cool. Like
That's
really great
amazing.
experience. Yeah, yeah. That's when he had just started getting this kind of like post collegiate thing going on,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. And yeah, it was great times. Life changing.
So that is amazing to me. I think the impact of a coach, whether you are a name, air quotes there, like a Don Babbitt, or someone doesn't even know your name, but you're a throws coach at Citrus College, right?
Yeah.
I think the impact that you make on, not, I think, I know the impact that you make on young people is immeasurable.
Oh yeah.
Because 99% of the kids, even you big time coach Mo, but 99% of the kids you coach are not going to go on to be pro. But
Yeah.
100% of them are going to go on to be moms, dads, teachers, business owners, coaches, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So to see early in your life who is in your life in the coaching world, throws coaching world, is really amazing. So like to see a Don Babbitt, like that's your like, what do you mean? That's crazy. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
He's him and Lloyd Higgins. They're you never know if they were like coaching. Don had just started. Uh, Coach Higgins had been like World Masters champion and stuff like that. I remember he
Right.
threw like 200 feet at Mount Sag one year with a big disc or something. But this was in his, I think he was in his 40s at the time or something like that. I mean, he did some crazy stuff, but it wasn't like you're like, oh my God, I can't talk to this guy, I can't be approached. But
Right.
all the great coaches have been really, I'm really lucky and really blessed
Yeah.
to have had these opportunities. They're very down to earth. They're just
Yeah.
regular
Yeah.
guys, regular girls. They just hey, that's they're not like oh
Yeah.
I'm here down here that kind of thing. They're not like that at all, which
Now,
is very cool.
now Don is, from my experience, a very technical. He's a
Yep.
teacher
Yeah,
coach, right?
he was very. Uh, Higgins was more like teaching, like
Mm-hmm.
he's teaching you like this is how you do this, this is how you do that. It was Dom was very much like he's very technical
Mm-hmm.
and he keeps track of everything, data, information, and that
Mm.
kind of spoke to my scientific type mind that I had. I was like, I want to see like objective,
Right.
measurable things. So that
Yeah.
was very interesting. And as time was going on, I became more and more interested in like how do you get somebody to be really good at something? Like how do you teach someone? I mean, I watched a video of a guy throwing like, world record. How does that happen? Like
Mm-hmm.
what what
Mm-hmm.
what happens I mean, you obviously have to be talented and all that. So there's
Yeah,
a tons
right,
of
right,
talented
right.
people, but how do you get someone to go from the beginning to that level? What do
Yeah.
you got to do? That. So I got very curious about it, interested. I got
what
into
what you're describing there is actual coaching, because you're right. There are
yeah,
plenty of super talented people. There's someone. Yeah, I'm here in Champaign, Illinois. There's someone walking around in Champaign, Illinois that could be a 250-foot hammer thrower, just from natural God talent. But they
yeah,
won't be because they need a coach. You have to.
yeah.
You can be as talented as you want, but if you ain't got a coach, you don't get to reach the
Yeah, you
potential.
don't get to do that. How do you do all that, right? So I got
Hmm.
more and more
Hmm.
interested in it, and one thing happened in my life that changed a lot of things was my father passed away in 1994, and that was when I was applying for medical school and all that stuff, a lot of stress, everything, and I was like, it affected me a few couple of years later, but he always like do something. He'd always tell me like do something you love to do because he was actually really big into history. He'd tell us stories about kings and shahs and this
Yeah.
and Napoleon came to whatever and all. He was really, but he'd been a businessman because of run a family business. He never got the chance to follow like what he loved to do. And my mom was the same as that. They were both like that, but they were like, hey, again, it goes back to the thing. If you're gonna do whatever it is you're gonna do, you better be the best at it. That was
Right.
the thing. Like, so I was going through this whole process, and I graduated from college. In '95, I believe I got second place at NCAA Division II Nationals, which was in
Wow.
yeah, Emporia State, Kansas.
No way. That's where we
Yeah,
are this year. Oh, that's so
yeah,
funny.
Emporia State. And it had rained, so there was about a foot of rain in water in the throwing field. So when you throw the hammer, it would go in the ground, and the guy had to come with galoshes and stick in the water to measure the throws.
You, I imagine when you moved over here to the States, maybe not a lot of like you stayed in where you were.
Yeah.
But track, you got to maybe go see some parts of the U.S. as
Yeah,
a
I've
youngin.
been I've been to pretty much almost every single state. I think the only
Yeah.
one I didn't go for track is Alaska, Hawaii, and
I,
particular
I'm
Northeast.
thinking just as a young, like through your
Yeah, yeah,
college years, like you got like what uh immigrant from Iran coming to California is going to Emporia, Kansas. You're just
yeah.
not, but you got to see like other parts of the country because of
Yeah.
track and field as a
Well, I
young
mean,
kid.
we hear about other parts because my aunts were like one of them went to University of Minnesota for a while. She was a PhD. She was
Hmm.
super smart actually. I wish I was a tenth as smart as she was. She had a veterinarian degree. She was a
Wow.
veterinarian, and
Wow.
she had a PhD, and she had a postdoc stuff. She did research. So she lived in Minnesota, Louisiana. I think she went to Kentucky,
Hmm.
Louisville,
Well,
and in New York. And my other aunts been different places. They were doctors and stuff. But they would tell us stuff about other states, and we're like, oh,
hmm.
this is kind of cool. Maybe we could.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
back, you get to go see that stuff. It's pretty cool,
yeah. That's
right?
so cool.
So you got yeah, it's really cool. So you got so after college was done. I was getting into I got into a couple of medical schools and stuff, and I
So
would just start.
so you're not thinking coaching at all. This is
No,
medical
no, no. I
school
was,
up to this
it,
point.
it just kind of like, but then I got into this whole, I got the medical school exam. You take your MCATs, then you do applications, and then you get you're lucky you get interviews. I got a couple of interviews for a couple of
Right.
universities and stuff like that, and then I just started thinking, I'm like, I'm really interested in this coaching business, and the one thing that really changed my life was in 96. Coach Higgins came, I kept throwing. So what I did was I'm like, I want to learn how these people throw far. That was my objective. I want to learn how people throw crazy far because I throw like 190 feet or something like that. I'm like, these guys are throwing like 250, 260 feet.
Right.
How does that happen? So that was like my objective. So what I would do is I would work during the year, save my money, and then I would just basically write letters to coaches in Europe. And he said, "Can I come watch you practice? Whatever. I save a couple $1,000, whatever. And back then
Yeah.
it was too expensive. Nowadays you want to do this, get a
Right,
$100,000.
right,
But back
right.
then it was you go stay in a small hotel somewhere in a small town, and it costs you like $100 for a week or something. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool. It was pre-Euro days, so it
Yeah.
was actually really
But you're doing that with still the I'm going to be a doctor route.
kind of. It was like
Like you're
I was
just
kind of like in my mind. I was like, I want to try this until
yeah.
you know. So 96, Coach Higgins came in 96, 97. Coach Higgins came and said, "Hey, I got these high school kids that are really good. I got to do I got to do the JC stuff. Can you help these guys out?" And I got in, and during the time my work that I did was I worked in the lab.
Hmm.
I worked in a research lab. Actually, Coach Babbitt's mom was the researcher, but they needed lab technologists and stuff. So I got that, and I was working in this lab, which is a UCLA. It was a lab. They were trying to see if electromagnetic fields promoted cancer. So you had to know like lab experience, how to use equipment, research, scientific equipment and things like that. So I was doing that. And I was making really good money, by the way. It took a long time coaching to get back to that.
Yeah.
But he's like, hey, take these high school kids I'm coaching, and these guys happen to be one of them was Rita Sturman, which who ended up being an NCAA champion, like
No
big
way.
international coach now. Yeah, the other guy was Ruben Williams, who ended up going to Cal, which is crazy because if you had told me UC Berkeley, the only thing I would have ever thought about UC Berkeley is Nobel Prizes,
Yep.
particle accelerators,
Yep.
science, Einstein. That's what I did. Berkeley. That's smart people. It's sports. I mean, when he said he was going to go to Berkeley, we were like, why would you go there? That's like Caltech or something. And then he ended up going there. There was a girl, Nicole. I forgot her last name, but she went to Arizona. She was a hammer thrower. And then another guy named Richard Laguerre. I think he lives in Tucson, but he was also it was a top 5 or 3 or something like that in California. I coached these guys and they did really well. So I'm like, man, maybe I'm kind of good at this. I don't know. I want to try. And so I was working with these guys, and a man from Coach Jim Sackett from Cal Poly Pomona.
Hmm.
He just I don't know. To this day I don't know where he got my phone number from because I asked Higgins. He didn't know. Babbitt didn't. I was like, no. And that's when Don went from Cal State LA to Georgia, and he's been
Mm.
there ever
Yeah,
since.
forever. Yeah.
So he had a couple of post collegiate people that say, "Hey, you want to work with these guys?" One of them was Janet Hill. She ended up being fifth at the trials in 2000, and this is 90, 96, 97, that time frame. And after the Olympic trials in '96, and Coach Sackett called me and said, "Hey, I need a throws coach. The guy that was coaching throws for me, he's an engineer. He got a job. He can't do it. You want to come do this? Volunteer, whatever." So
Right.
I said, "Sure, I'll try it." So I went there, and he had. I remember we had two throwers, and there was three, four girls that were pole vaulters, but there was no pole vault in Division 2 yet. Women's pole vault was in
Oh,
the
right.
yet.
Hmm.
They hadn't brought it on. So he's like, I had these girls that were pole vaulters in high school. There was pole vault women's, but D2 didn't have it. D1 I think just
Right.
had put it in. But these girls are on the team. They can't pole vault because you don't have pole vault. Can you make them throwers? And I was like, maybe I don't know. We'll try. And it ended up being pretty good. So and
But
then
you're still in this volunteer position at Cal Poly Pomona. You're still thinking medical school though?
no, I was starting to come out of that. I was like, you know what? I want to do the coaching. So I
Okay.
actually in that time I sat down with my mom and my brother and I was like, hey guys, I really want to go into the coaching world. And
Yeah.
they gave the ball. I mean, my brother still makes fun of me to this day. He's like, you don't have the world record. They're like, hey, you're gonna give up going to medical school. If you're gonna go be a coach, you better be the best damn coach because you're giving up this huge thing here. You better make this count. But they were very supportive. I love my family and my mom and
Even mom, because I know how moms can
yeah,
be.
my mom. She was very supportive of us, man. Whatever we wanted to do, she's like, be the best at it. She would
Wow.
bust her bust her butt, making sure we had what we needed to do. So that
Mo, I like to make fun and jokes with with the rookie like when they're first coming in, like they're an athlete and they're going to become a coach and everything. And I'll typically ask them like, so what'd you get your degree in? And invariably they tell me chemical engineering or, biology, like smart majors. And I'm like, and you want to be a track coach? And, there's no bigger fan of track coaches than me, but I'm still like,
yeah
you could go and cure cancer, but you want to run around in circle, help people run around in circles. Like, well,
yeah.
you're the perfect example of that, Mo.
Well, I think
Like,
I think the thing about coaching track and field, the track and field is very objective, right? It's like if you run so fast, you ran that fast. That's it.
right,
There's no like,
right,
well, the coach didn't put me in because
right,
Billy's dad's his buddy and whatever. None of that. You know what I mean?
right.
Like it's just there's numbers and the
Yeah,
numbers will tell you if what you're doing is good or bad.
yeah,
You can't hide anywhere. You can't results are very
yeah, yeah,
straightforward.
yeah, yeah.
So for somebody that's in an environment where you're always dealing with objective things, track and field makes a lot of sense.
Okay, okay,
You know,
all right.
like
That
hey,
make that
I ran, like 9.5 in the 100 world record.
yeah,
That's how fast you get on the world
yeah.
record. There's no, you know,
That makes more sense because I love track and I love track and field coaches, but I also know priorities, right? Like, track and again, curing cancer, being a heart
yeah,
surgeon. There's things that are, thank God there's heart surgeons, and
yeah,
that I'll need that one day. So, but when and so when I meet I mean, again, most people are just in such smart majors. I mean, it's just really amazing. And but that makes sense when you say like that's typically a more objective type of thing. So track is kind of attractive to that in regards to like, and even I think so. You haven't used this word yet, but what I'm gathering from you describing this is being curious as well. Because like
yeah,
you didn't, I'm not hearing you say, oh, you know what? I thought, I had Don Babbitt and this guy Lloyd and blah blah blah, and I can create the world record. You were like more like, hey, they're throwing 250. How is that? Like, so what's the difference between 250 and 220 and 220 and 180? What,
yeah.
like you're coming at it from a very curious mindset of like, there's got to be some thing to unlock that I can then take to other kids, and depending on their
Yeah,
God-given talent, how far they
you
go.
want to find like the mechanism of like what are the things you got to do to be able to do these things,
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
that kind of thing.
And
So
and
that
especially
was
in
more of a
throwing, I think
curiosity thing.
too. Yeah, yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. All
That
right, so
made
you're at Cal Poly Pomona. Now, Pomona, it's one thing to be given throwers. And it's so funny, Regis and those. I love Regis and there's great people. It's
yeah,
one thing to be given somebody that has at least done the events, no matter how good or how not so good they are, and then coach them. They handed you a couple of pole vaulters that probably couldn't. I'm gonna say probably couldn't spell hammer. Pomona's a very good school academically, so I know
yeah,
they could spell. But they had no clue. And, I mean, that's fresh slate. That's tough for a rookie coach now. That's tough
yeah.
for a veteran
You
coach.
gotta figure out what you're doing. You gotta figure out what you're doing, and whatever I'd learned leading up to it. I okay. So what did my coach teach me to do, or what did we then and I started implementing what I had learned, and as I was doing that, I was like, there might be a better way to do it, or something like that. So
Right.
I was still throwing at the time too a bit.
Hmm.
Just because I wanted to go to Europe in the summers and learn. So I got to go all. Coach Babbitt also helped me a lot. I went to Germany. I went to Hungary. I went to Sombate before it was popular, which is wild because
Wow.
the guy's like, give me $200. You can stay here for 2 weeks, food, whatever you want. It was crazy. So I got to see all that stuff, and not so much in the. I guess at that time it wasn't popular for people to go to these places to train yet. It was more like insulated situations. And I wrote some coaches. They basically told me, yeah, get out of here, dude. What do you
Hmm.
we don't have anybody coming here. Go away.
Right.
And some people were like, yeah, sure, come watch, whatever. I mean, I got to see some really crazy. I saw
See,
like
I
I got
love that for you. That's what is. And I'm sure other sports have different ways of maybe doing this, but in track and field, I remember sitting down. I call him Chewy. Chewalkin out Tennessee. When he was an athlete, and my brother, we were at some social. My brother's not a track guy. He ran track, but he's not a track guy, right? And Chewy is telling my brother about going to Europe and going to all these different places, and my brother's just like, "Wow, that's amazing! Like you got those experiences to go to Paris and blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff." And Chewy's like, "Yeah, I came home with pretty much the goal was to if I left with $100 in my pocket, come back with $100. I didn't make money
pretty
or
much,
anything."
yeah,
And I
break
remember,
even.
and I remember my brother going, "Yeah, but I ain't never been to those places." Like, and I got more money than that, It's just like what a cool thing for our sport that we get to some of us get to learn other cultures, other people, other things.
Yeah.
Like that's just it's invaluable. And most of us, I don't get to go those places, and I'm in this sport for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's so cool that you got that experience, man.
It was very cool, and we had a coach at Cal Poly Pomona. His name was Stefan Hosel. He was an
Hmm.
East German coach. So talk about culture shock.
Oh
He,
yeah,
he, he had he had ended up somehow ended up in Pomona. He was hired as a coach there, and he was very he was very nice guy, very good guy, and he's he was coaching multi events and like jumps there, right? And he'd show up at practice and all that stuff. Smoked a ton of cigarettes, by the way. That was the thing.
I think that's on
But
brand, actually. Yeah.
yeah, so he would always tell me, he's like, no, you need to learn how to do the training methodology and all this stuff. And it was very good because he gave me a bunch of information and books and things like that that he had
Right.
kind of given me and all that. And I got into I would go to the AAF library in LA. It's on Adams, out off the
Yeah.
10 freeway. I recommend, if you're in LA, you're into sports, any sport doesn't matter, go to the AAF library. They have so much archives of whatever sport you can think of,
Hmm.
boxing, I don't know,
That's
ping
cool.
pong, well, you name it, they have that stuff. I'd go in there, read books, read articles, just learning. And one of the things I learned just from my family being into the engineers and doctors and stuff is that you always have to learn. It doesn't matter how
Mm,
much you know, you always have to learn. So I would
right.
go, you know, read up on stuff, learn, and just kind of do that kind of thing, and just develop my knowledge base,
how
that kind
how
of thing.
how much at this point? So you're doing like library, and that's a very academic background that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
How much peer to peer? Like, are you calling Coach Babbitt up? Like, hey,
Yeah,
I was thinking,
we talk all the time. I'd ask him like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about
yeah,
that?" He would be like,
yeah.
"Well, this is probably not so good, whatever." And I got into like reading a lot of trying to find information from other countries just to learn. And I spent a ton of money like getting books translated because I don't know German or Russian or
Oh,
anything like that. So I
right.
would get books, and I'd find like catalogs in the library about like this guy in Ukraine is selling these books like you could buy it from the book binders and whatnot, and
All right.
you get the books, you take it to the university library, have them, and sometimes you get it translated. I had a couple of books that actually by this point I was at the University of Michigan or something. Somebody sent me a book in the mail. I'm like, what is this? I was like, you got this translated like in 2004 or something like that. We couldn't find you, so we sent it to you. The
No
manuscript.
way.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so
Wow, that's
yeah,
cool.
so
That's
you
cool.
got to do that, and I got exposed to a lot of different coaching philosophies other than what we do in
Hmm.
the U.S., which is very interesting because different people have different takes on how to do things. So
Right.
it 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 kept me from becoming like kind of one dimensional. You're
Mm-hmm.
always thinking about things from different perspectives.
Right.
How did these other people train, or how did these other guys coach, or whatever, And anyway, so I'm coaching these kids at Cal Poly, and ended up being pretty good. We won the conference championships in 97 and 98. CCAA, Conference of Champions.
Man.
Back in the day, that was a big deal. D2
Yeah.
throws was really West Coast kind of deal. It was Cal CLA, what's it called? Well, Long Beach State and Northridge were big time throws programs. I think Coach
Right.
Venegas had gone there and all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I used to go watch his practices. I called him up at his house, and he's like, "Who the hell are you calling me?" I'm like, "Hey, Coach Babbitt, give me a number." He's like, "What are you giving me?" I don't know if you ever talked to Art, but he's pretty funny.
Oh, he's great. I
He
love
gave
Art.
me
Yeah.
that. He was messing with me, and he's like, "No, you can come watch." So I watched like John Godina train and all sorts of stuff. It was pretty cool,
Yeah.
and just getting that, and then I think got going, and then Coach Babbitt moved to Georgia, and some of his post collegiate kids, Jan and a couple of people, they were like, "Hey, we don't have a coach. Can we come work out with you?" So I got
Mhm.
into coaching post collegiate athletes, coaching college guys and girls, and I got started coaching them, and just kind of learning the craft, I guess you could say, and kind of formulating some philosophy about training, and which I don't like to use the word philosophy. It's more like a procedural method. Like, what's your operating procedure, basically? So I developed kind of an operating procedure.
Let's double click there. Um, because I feel like that's important, like to learn your thought process here. Knowing what we know so far, very academic, engineering, medical, like we can kind of see in that mindset there. You said you don't like to call it a philosophy, you like to call it a procedure,
Yeah,
which I've heard the word philosophy 100 times, right? With your coaching philosophy, all that kind of stuff. Why that distinction for you on?
because my view of it is, if you talk about philosophy, it's objective, it's subjective. I feel like it works. I feel like this. All right. It it's it's comfortable for you, or
Yeah,
you feel comfortable with whatever it is you're doing. When you want to have like, measurable objective results,
yeah,
you gotta kind of put your feelings aside and look
got
at,
it.
like, hey, if I do this is gonna happen. You know, I had a chemistry professor. He said something. He's like, yeah, molecules don't care about your feelings. You know,
Yeah,
because we had a lab or something like that, and this one group, there was a couple of people in that group, and they were really pissed off because they weren't getting the yield or whatever we needed to
right,
do. And
right, right.
they were all upset, and one of the girls was crying and stuff, and it's not working, whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, they doesn't care about your feelings. You got to do procedures. So if you want to make, so
Yeah,
you gotta be pragmatic about things.
yeah, that's
That's
interesting.
important, and you gotta look at, you gotta check your feelings at the door and
Yeah,
be objective. Like, this is gonna work.
yeah,
Whatever it is you're doing I'm a throws coach mainly. So
yeah,
whatever you're doing in your throws, is the stuff you're doing working or not? That's
right.
all it is. I mean,
Yeah,
you could agree with it, disagree with it, whatever. It doesn't matter. If it
yeah.
works, you
I,
gotta use it.
I like, I think words matter. And so I like that, you're so dedicated to that thought process that even like you could have said, oh, my throws philosophy is everything is measurable, but you even like, oh yeah, no, it's not philosophy. It's a proceed. Like you're all in on that.
Yeah, you have to be,
I
because
like that. Yeah.
there's things. As a matter of fact, I was had a meeting with my post collegiate athletes. We were like, we have to redo the whole training because we want to get better results. So I like what we're doing, but I like what we're doing. But did it give the results we want? No. So we have to be sort of like, we got to look at everything and,
Right.
and look at it objectively and say, look, did this work? Yes. No. Okay. Keep it. If it's
Right.
yes, keep it. If it's no, throw it away,
Got it.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
You can't get into the. I like this.
Yeah.
Well,
But I like doing, yeah, that's what I was saying. I like
it
doing that. Like,
don't
well, no, it
work.
doesn't
You
work.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then I see that a lot with a lot of coaches. They get into like what they're comfortable with, right? And usually what you get comfortable with is something that you did with someone that worked really well. And like, oh, this worked really well. It's like the one problem with like track and field, especially high performance, is the population of people that do this is so small. You can't really say like, hey, I did research and I got these results, because your population is like, three,
Right.
two people. One
Right.
world record holder is one person. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's hard to kind of suss out what's good and bad and whatnot. And a lot
Yeah.
of times coaches get into this thing where it's like, well, this guy did this, let's just copy it.
Yeah.
But a better thing would be, I'll use an example like Ryan Krauser, right? I mean, he's probably the greatest track and field athlete in our generation,
Pretty
probably
fair.
multiple
Yeah.
generations.
Yeah.
But if you watch him throw, he looks a certain way, does certain things, whatever. that's cool. You can learn from that. But the best way is to just sit down with them and say, hey, why do you do this?
Mm,
Why do you do this, or why do you do that, or whatever, like,
yeah.
what's your methodology of doing whatever it is you're doing? If you learn that, it'll probably teach you a lot more about it than just watching a video of them throwing.
Right. Yeah, I
You see
think
what I'm saying?
it's interesting when you talk about like individualization and personalization of so when people and I was this person when I coached. I've just now learned this and I'm not coaching anymore. If you have a system, a procedure, a philosophy, like one way you think it's to be done, but almost every person that says that, I would also ask them and say, hey, but can different people do things different ways? They would say yes. I'm like, okay, well, if you lock yourself into one place, then well, that means some percentage of the kids that you get are not
You're gonna
that's
do
not
it.
going to be the
Yeah.
system for them. But if you still try to coach them that way, because that's your way, and you individualize it by maybe upping the reps or lowering the whatever. But it just we've seen from every event, from hammer throwing to high jumping to distance
Yeah,
throwing,
whatever.
radically different people. I mean, look, just use Ryan Krauser. Look at Ryan versus Joe
Yeah,
versus
different.
Darrell. They are
Totally
radically,
different. Yeah,
radically different
completely
people.
different. Yeah, but they're all thrown far.
They're all thrown far, but
So
if
I
you
think
if you go to a
when
coach that only does one way, they would all be coached one way, and I think one of them would not reach their potential because of
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So, well, you brought up the word the system. So you have to have a system, but the
Mhm.
system has to be your procedures. That's your system. We're gonna do
Okay.
this. We're gonna do something. We're gonna look at what it gave. How do you take that information and apply it to other?
Hmm.
Well, because it can get really complicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I would say, like as an example, is like nowadays you see a lot of people are talking about using heavier implements and lighter implements
Right.
and all sorts of stuff, and I'm very curious about that. I talked to Bonachuk, about it, and he said, you can't say, I don't know, if I throw a 5 pound shot or whatever, I'm going to do this in a competition, because it depends on the training that you're doing in
Yeah.
that time. Because maybe another time you're going to do another training, right?
Right.
And when you do another training, whatever you were using might change. So it
Right.
might for that time that you did whatever it is you did, that
Yeah.
yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
But if you change it, then all the other stuff changes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, but then if you have a way of saying, okay, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, E being whatever implement I'm using to throw.
Right.
If I understand the procedural methodology that I did this, it's going to give me a result. And I
Right.
can see this result. If I change something in there, I can go back and say, I changed this and this, so this other result is going to be changed
Right.
somehow. Hopefully for a positive, right? You can go
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you trying to just then and that leads to me like thinking, like, why do I like certain training methodologies over other ones, et cetera, et cetera. We'll probably get to that.
Right.
Anyway, so I'm coaching
Yeah.
all this stuff, and I get another call from my best friend John Frazier. He was at Cal CLA.
Yeah.
He was going from Cal CLA, I believe, to where was he going? I think Florida. I'm not sure. He was going maybe University of Florida or something
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
He's like, hey, Cal CLA wants a throws coach. You're an alumni. You want to come over there? So I
Yeah.
said, sure. I mean, that'd be cool. So basically, as I didn't know earlier, that was my job interview. I just take a 5 minute phone call. Because he was giving a recommendation. The head coach was Kevin McCarthy at the time. He was a
Oh
great
yeah.
coach, but he was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think he lives down in Laguna Niguel somewhere. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I should probably give him a call one of these days. So he had been the head coach when I was in college too,
Mhm.
and Don had been there, and then he had gone, and then John Frazier had been there, and
Wow.
and then he's like, "Hey Mo, come be a coach there." So I went to Cal CLA, and then at that time I started. We had really good throwers. I had a couple of guys in the
So
shot and
at
everything else.
at Pomona, you were volunteer. Now's your
Yeah,
your first paid
I'll
gig,
tell you
yeah?
one thing. I will not. People ask me how I got into coaching. This is a public service announcement. Do not start the way I did. It
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
It sucks. It's hard. It's miserable. It's not good.
Wait, Mo.
Do another. Go be a GA. Do something else.
Okay, this is important because I we may be on the same wavelength there. I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. You're saying don't go become a volunteer, go be a
No.
GA. Yeah,
No.
I'm with you,
Go
brother.
be a.
I'm not
Yeah.
a fan of volunteers. Not a fan of the volunteers. I'm not a fan of you asking someone to do a service to you, coach your throwers, and you not giving them any payment. That just to me is
Yeah.
ludicrous. Ludicrous.
Well, Coach Sagan had a deal with me. He's like, they had a meet there. It was called the Bronco Invitational.
Hmm.
All right, and then he's like, if you help more high schools show up to this Bronco Invitational, whatever we make, I'll give you a cut of it.
Right.
What. So I got well, like, yeah, I want to make money. Why not?
Yeah.
I'm a nice capitalist, this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I sent. I think I sent letters. I made these letters. I guess I'm big into. I think that was my period of my life where I was big into writing letters to everybody, writing letters to Europeans. Everybody. I just made these
Yeah,
letters. I
that's
sent them
right.
to all these high schools, and it ended up we got too many entries. And if you remember back, this isn't like when you have direct athletics where you go on and click buttons and do your thing or
Right.
enter or whatever they have in a runner card or whatever else
Right,
going on.
right.
It was either the people like mailed it in or faxed it in, and
That's
he's like,
right.
"You invited too many people." I'm like, "Well, you said I got a cut. I want to get." So we had to. The parking situation was crazy. I had to get the sheriffs involved, and it was a whole thing. It was crazy, but I mean, it was
That's a
good.
good lesson. That's a good
Yeah,
lesson. And hey, you give somebody a goal,
you
they
gotta be
might do
careful.
better than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, be careful.
So yeah, it was crazy. It's a
Man.
I ended up going to Cal State LA. I was there for a couple
Yeah.
of years.
Yeah.
We had really good teams. I coached a couple of guys that threw really far. A couple of my throws were very successful. Went to U.S. trials. It was the first time I coached anybody at elite level. Janet went to trials and remember going up to watch her throw, and it was me and about six other guys staying in the same hotel room because nobody had any money. So draw lots to see who sleep outside
Yeah.
on the balcony. That was crazy. So anyhow, so I got I was starting to get more into the travels. Were getting more involved with the coaches. I got to
Right.
learn more people. Went to different places more. Learned a lot more about coaching and training and all this other stuff. And it was really cool. And in 2001, our head coach got relieved of his duties, and I became the associate or interim head coach at Cal State. I had to coach a sprint. I had no idea how to coach sprints because our
Wow.
volunteer guy didn't want to come anymore because he was friends with Kevin, which makes sense. Anyway, so I had to go beg him to come back. But then I talked to Kevin because at that time I was also doing all the strength training for the track
Sure.
guys. Of course, I used to do all the. So I knew all the strength stuff, but I didn't know how to coach sprints. I mean, like I seen him do. I know the biomechanics of it, whatever, but that's not coaching. That's
Right.
just
Right.
whatever. So Kevin, I called him and said, "Hey, what do I do?" He's like, "Well, talk to John Smith at UCLA, HSI." I'm like,
Yeah.
so I went and got well there. He's all come sit down and talk to me about coaching sprints and give me some. I took a bunch of notes, and
Wow.
applied it. And we had this girl Nicole Duncan. She ended up running low 11s and 22 high and some like 6 meters and change in the long jump. Was three-time NCAA champion, which is funny
Wow.
because that was the first guy I coached. The national champion was in the events. I didn't even
Oh,
was in the
that's
next one of
funny.
it. So after that year, I went to Northern Arizona University
That's
in
right.
Flagstaff
Hmm.
with coach was there was Ron Mann, great coach,
Yeah.
legendary coach. He's a really nice guy.
Great human.
His favorite saying is always, "Don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions." But it's like,
Hmm.
well, I mean, more than that kind of thing. So it was good, and they had a great history of throwers
Yeah.
back in the day with the Swedish guys and girls going up there. It was really cool. I
Are,
got some of those guys would come back and visit and stuff.
are you so I grew up in America. I grew up in Alabama, right? So for me,
Yeah,
when I started coaching, I grew up in the SEC area, right? So to me, and I'll still, well, you're in the SEC now, so you'll agree with this.
yeah,
I'm an SEC homer. I think the SEC is the best at everything. If there was a Tiddlywinks championship, someone from the SEC would win. That's just my right. So in my coaching career, I grew up in Alabama, so I grew up an Alabama fan, an Auburn fan, Florida, Georgia, all these kind of things. My whole coaching career was like, okay, what is the next thing I need to do, the next stop, so that I can get to the SEC? And I eventually got there, at Mississippi State, right? But you're coming from like you didn't grow up being a UCLA fan, or you didn't.
well, no, I mean, you knew about it, kind of thing, right? So the Pac-10, I mean, because of like really
You
because of
learned
like
it when you came in. Like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
assuming in Iran you were not.
No, I was not there.
Yeah, okay,
No,
okay, all right.
yeah, no, no.
Maybe now today it's global, but definitely within
Yeah,
that.
no, I was.
But
I
what
mean,
I'm curious is going
yeah.
from like Cal Poly Pomona, Cal State LA, NAU, and we know you're at Texas now, and we'll get to some of the other places you went to. Were you think like when you moved from job to job, were you thinking because NAU is I assume they were D1 back then, is
Yeah, that'd be
D1,
one.
okay, so I get to go to D1, and then when you go from NAU to wherever we go next, it's like, because that's a power four or whatever we would call it
Yeah,
back then. Like, were you
yeah.
thinking that way, or is it more like, it's like, I get paid more and that's important?
Well, no, I remember when my parents said, "Go be the best." So I figured if you want at the time, if you wanted to be like the top level coach, you had to be in a pack.
Okay.
Well, I was a Pac 10 back then.
Yeah, yeah,
Then
yeah.
we became Pac
Okay.
12. But
So you were kind of thinking of how do I get to the Pac
yeah, how do I get to the
10 or
next
whatever?
level? I got to work my
Hmm.
way up, basically. It's just
Gotcha.
you got to pay your, pay your dues and all this other
Yep, yep,
stuff,
yep,
which
yep.
is kind of crazy. And it's working right out. So I started at Cal State LA. I was like, okay, I kind of mastered this level. And then you go to NAU, which is like big sky. And that
Yeah.
was Division one double A football. I don't know what they call it. I was thinking both championship series
Yeah.
or
So it's always one
champion.
double A to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
is
know.
it? Yeah. So that was, I guess, Pac-12 adjacent, I guess, or Pac-10 adjacent,
Right,
whatever it
right,
was. And anyway, so went there. We again, like I kept working with some post collegiate athletes. Got to the people would come over for training camps from different countries and stuff like that, which was very
right.
cool.
Wow. Hmm.
And a really cool thing happened along the way. I had gathered knowledge. I would do some presentations and things like that. And I had reached out to Koji Marafushi about some information. He said, by the way, I knew John Godina. He had the World Throw Center and all that stuff. And I know
Hmm.
John's my age, so we kind of, he was at UCLA and he was our hero because
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
worked NCAA record and all
Yeah.
that business, right? So I knew those guys, and um, I'm like, we got to talking, and but he had done a study. It was going to do studies about the hammer throw and stuff. And he's like, actually, I'm going to do training camp in Arizona. Can I come up to your place come up? I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you're like, to throw a hammer
Dude.
god, you know?" What I mean? So we're still friends to this day. I mean, he at the Worlds when Cameron won the gold medal and world champion, he invited us to go to his box to watch him meet a bunch of men's hammer, and it was really cool. And a lot,
Dude.
and yeah, it was crazy. So he came over, he's still throwing, and one of the like the coolest things. I think it is probably it's kind of a nerdy thing, but he did a training session one time. I was videoing him. He took I think 12 throws, and you couldn't tell what throw was what throw, except if you saw somebody walking in the background. That's how accurate
Because
he
they were
was.
just so on
He
point,
was
each
he was
one.
on point. It was amazing to watch. And I think he
Wow.
took all his throws that were probably between like 78 meters and 80 meters, just like machine. So it was really cool, and I got to, and at the time too, I had read a lot about kind of the old Soviet training methodologies and things like that, and Dylan Armstrong, which I actually met when he was in high school. They had come down with his coach. I think it was the guy's name was Derek Everly. I think he's still around
Hmm.
and coaching and stuff up in Canada.
Yep.
And they went down. I remember they wanted to go to the beach,
Sure.
well, it became the Beach Invitational. It was called something. I think it was a Long Beach Relay or something like that back then. So I gave them directions to go to the beach. They went the other way. Ended up in Ojai, which, if you know anything about California, Ojai is like on the opposite. They went the wrong way. So I was like, well, that's not the beach, man. All you gotta do is go on the 405 south and make a right, and I mean, it's right there. You can't miss the Pacific Ocean. It's pretty big. But anyways, I known him since back, since those days, and he called me up. I said, hey, can we come up here with my coach Dr. B to come and train? I was like, are you kidding me? Like, of course. So it
Dude.
was really cool because they came up to training camp like a few times. I think 4 or 5, 8 times. I don't know. He'd come up there and he'd be in they'd be in Phoenix. It would get too hot. They would come up to Flagstaff, basically. And I got to talk to Dr. B a lot, a lot.
Wow.
And not a lot of it about coaching, a lot of it about life and how do you coach people, or did you have just some really cool stories about different
Right.
guys he'd coached over the years and that kind of stuff. And it was funny because you'd learn about coaching things from him by the stories he would tell you.
Right.
I don't know. You said he came to practice, he wasn't doing good. Da, 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 this happened, that happened, and
Right.
we did this, and you start listening to the stories. Like, he's not gonna write down what he did, like 5 sets to 6 or 2 sets to 8 or whatever.
Right.
He's telling you what happened. Like that's his way of explaining things, which was kind
Right.
of a you remember that better because it's kind of like an allegory, but you learn something.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Very cool,
Mo,
and I've been talking to him ever since.
it's
And anyway,
so
so yeah,
it's so impressive, no matter where you are in your coaching career, you stand on the shoulders of coaches before you with,
yeah,
typically your coach and
always,
mentors and things like that. You're still at a very young age here at the Northern Arizona, and Koji, Dr. B, Don Bad. I mean, like
yeah,
you're at a super young age here, standing on giant
yeah.
shoulders. Like
You
you
learn,
look at a lot
you
of
got.
people.
Yeah, I was really fortunate, really blessed, and
Yeah.
my mindset's always is like you just ask people. I mean, the worst thing anyone's going to tell you is no, and you
Right.
ask somebody else, and you end up learning what you need to learn. But
Yeah. John Smith,
don't
I
be
forgot
afraid.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, the sprint coach, and I see him sometimes at meets and he'll say hi and stuff, and it was interesting. So I got to do a lot of like traveling at the time again with and I met my wife and before we moved to and actually we were dating and we moved together to NAU, which was kind of cool. And she's been supporting me the whole time, and she was very
Oh.
supportive of my.
Is she a thrower or track
No, no,
person at
nothing.
all? Not at
No
all.
sports, nothing.
Yeah, no sports at all.
No. I'll tell you what, she'd probably be a better coach than 99% of coaches.
Is that
She
right? Yeah.
very observant. She's a businesswoman. She has her own
Mhm.
business. She has a marketing and sales business that she helps small businesses and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But she's very observant. And actually, she got funny story. It's fast forward a bunch of years. When Cameron, her first professional season in 23,
Yeah.
I couldn't go with her to the meets. And she really likes my wife. She's like, well, can Diane go with me? I'm like, sure, she can go, whatever.
Yeah.
And they went to Finland and competed there in the Papua Nurmi Games and Kortene. There was one there. And the Finns thought that my wife was her coach. So
They
we went
couldn't
to
tell
when we
like
went
she
to
wasn't.
then we went to Budapest. The Finnish coach came and said, "Hey, coach, hello, how are you?" Because I was doing all the Canada stuff. He's like, "Is Cameron's coach going to be here at the meet?" I said, "Yeah, she'll be here." It's funny. I told my wife, and she was cracking. I was like, "What are you talking
Hey,
about?"
they're calling for you. They want to interview you.
Yeah, they want to talk to you. So she's very observant. She's very
That's
intelligent,
cool.
amazing, loving. I'll be honest with you. I would have been out of coaching a long time ago if it wasn't for her support because
That's awesome.
it's a lot of good times, but there's a lot of hard times and all sorts of stuff. So
Yeah.
it was really good. And anyhow, so I was at NAU until I was doing. I had my kind of the college kids are going and the pro groups was kind of going and got guys and one of the guys I got to coach was Nick Fat. He's at Texas A&M now,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh, you
I coached
coached Nick.
him. Yeah, I coached him for
Oh,
9 years. Yeah, and he had gone to Cal. Here's the weird thing: he had gone to Cal, and his buddy
right.
Martin Maric from Croatia, and he wanted help with training, so I helped him out a bit, and now he's at USC. And there was another guy, a very close friend of mine, actually one of my best friends, Colin Post. I think he's at High Point now down in North Carolina. He was
Hmm.
at Wake Forest for a few years, and
Yep.
yeah, I think I'll tell you what. If you want to know somebody that can, if you ever have a clinic about teaching, just teaching people how to do stuff,
Yeah.
Colin is amazing. I
Is that right?
I learned things from him. He is so good at just
I
teaching people to do stuff, whatever
I
it is.
I appreciate hearing that because I don't host any track clinics, but because I MC a lot of track clinics and I attend a lot of them, people are always asking me, "Hey, I need a throws guy, or I need a spread. Like, who do you know who's good at this stuff?" Because with the podcast and stuff, I kind of pay attention to who can
Yeah,
speak and teach. So that's good to know because I know Colin well. In fact, I had a great
yeah.
conversation
Colin's great. But
this
I mean,
summer. Yeah,
he's got a really amazing mind on like getting people to do stuff, like teaching you like this is how you do it, etc. I mean, he's
yeah,
exceptional. He can pick things out. I mean,
yeah,
we'll talk about things sometimes, and I'm like, oh, did you ever look at this? I'm like, oh,
yeah,
and same with Amin and Martina, great coaches,
yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, same, bro. I've known
Uh,
Amin forever. Yeah, great guys.
yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah,
Again,
super.
you seem to have this magnet force of really great people. Like I think of Don and Ritas and Colin. Like you just kind of have this like attraction to like not just like
It's just
talented people, but like genuine,
yeah.
like good people.
I think I'm just blessed and just it just happened. You just
That's
you
cool.
know live your life the way you're supposed to live. I guess
Yeah, I love that.
having good.
All right, how many years at NAU and where do we go
I was
next?
there 8 years, so I was
Wow,
I don't like moving because really I personally don't like moving because I think
it
from my
sucks.
childhood of having to move and all that stuff
Mm,
and the whole thing I'm not into that.
sure.
And anywhere I've ever been, my first question has always been, is it going to be stable? Like
Mm,
if I'm going to do something, it's going to take time. And one
yeah.
of the things that Coach Babbitt really taught me was that if you want to build a program at the collegiate level or any level of performance, it's going to take you about 3 to 5 years
Hmm.
because you got to build the culture, you got to build the team mindset, you got to build your
How
expectation and
how
that
would
kind
that
of thing.
guy how would that guy know? He's been at Georgia for 30 years. He don't know what it's he's long past 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, he's going on the century mark. I think
He's like,
50 year plus. I
if
guess.
you want to build a program, you got to be there 30 years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he told me 3 to 5 years. I was like, man, that guy, why is he saying that? But he's right. So I was at NAU for a while, and then Fred LaPlante from University of Michigan reached out to me, and that was interesting because at the time Michigan the men's and women's programs were separate. So
Right.
they had the men's program and then
Yep.
women's. And I had just because of the people like Holzel and having had to coach the sprints and learning from the coach Smith and
Right.
all that. I had experience coaching the jumping events and hurdles and multi events
Right.
and stuff like that, and mainly the jumps and poles and stuff like that. Which uh, whoever coaches pole vault, I have the ultimate respect for him because that is like trying to juggle like two-headed cats and chainsaws. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
it's crazy. So he called me today. You can we have some really good throwers here. Like they had signed and the coach had changed and you also know how to coach the jumps and stuff because we only have three coaches. You got to know all the
Right.
fielding. So I said sure I can do that. So I went to University of Michigan. Ann Arbor is an interesting place. I've been. I've seen like you hear about the big football and stuff, but man, if you know, I would. This is one of those things that people need to go see it to experience it. It is crazy. I
Yep.
don't know, that's why I'm so far about Texas because the big football here is amazing.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
All the
Yeah.
pomp and circumstance with it and all that. That's really cool.
Hmm.
So I was at Michigan. Unfortunately, I was only there for 3 years. Coach LaPlante retired, and they were like, "Oh, and it just happened that Coach his name escaped my mind right now, real quick. He was at
Uh,
Auburn
Coach Clayton,
football. Yeah,
Jerry.
Jerry came and was like, okay, well, Jerry's here, so I guess
Yeah,
I
that's
gotta
a
go.
problem.
But
Right. Right.
he was great. I mean, he helped me out to get my name out there and that kind of
Right.
thing, and I'd gone to a couple of job interviews, and this is a crazy thing. I remember I came home from a job interview. I just walked into my house, and I get a phone call from Oakland, California, like phone number Oakland. I'm like, it must be a telemarketer or some crap. I was get another call like a minute later.
Mhm.
What is this? I walk in the house and I pick up the phone and is Coach Tony Sandoval from Cal.
Yeah.
He calls me and he says, "Hey, I need a throws coach, and you can coach throws for me. I'll hire you." Like I'm like, what?
That sounds like
Yes,
Tony.
yeah, that's what Tony. He's like, yeah, come over. And he's always got a gruff voice. Oh, you gotta come over. And I'm like, Berkeley. It's funny because I coached. I mean, had gone to Berkeley. Martin had gone, and even back in the
Right.
old days, Ruben had gone, and I never really thought about it. We had gone actually. We had this meet where it was like the public Ivies three-way meet, which was Virginia, Michigan, and Cal.
Hmm.
We'd done this for a couple of years. One of them was at Virginia one year, and the next year was at in Berkeley.
Hmm.
And we had gone to Edward Stadium and all that stuff. It
Hmm.
was kind of it's kind of a cool place,
Hmm.
Berkeley, interesting place to go
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I was like, oh, I mean, so I'm like, hey, let me talk to my wife first, see what's going on. So my wife's from Woodland Hills. I grew up in Azusa. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
Berkeley's eight hour drive from it's Bay Area, but hey, we're back home,
Right. Welcome
that
to
kind of thing.
California.
So
Yeah. 8 hours.
I mean, it's a lot closer than flying from
Yeah. Yeah.
the
That's
rest of the
right.
country, right? So we're like, oh, this sounds like it. That's like, let's do it, So we came to Berkeley, and uh, looking back at it, I didn't think I was going to stay there for more than like maybe 2 or 3 years, and I
Hmm.
wanted to go somewhere else, a bigger program. But got there, just started, putting things together. They had some good, they had some good throwers there already, and then kind of added on to it, built
Right.
on, built, and then Tony retired, and then they brought Coach Johnson,
Hmm.
Robin.
Hmm.
I will say Robin's probably one of the best coaches in the NCAA.
Hmm.
Like in terms of just professional, caring person. She really cares about
Yeah.
athletes and stuff. I was there, and she came in right before COVID, and that's when I had the big throws. I brought Cameron Rogers from
Right.
Canada. Uh, I remember everyone was always telling me like, "Well, she's too short. She's not going to throw far.
Right.
You need
Yeah.
to be like 6'2" and whatever." And I always tell people, it's like if you're a hammer thrower, this height doesn't matter. this height matters. How
Oh,
big is the orbit of the throw matters. Your
right,
height, you could be 6'5", but if your orbit is narrow,
right.
you don't throw far. You have to. So it was interesting. That's been a very interesting journey that we're going on.
Yeah,
Um, I that's a whole other. You probably could have like 5 podcasts about that. Just the learning how to get an elite athlete from the very beginning, not like
yeah,
they're already have a career and you kind of this was a 18-year-old kid coming into your program. You've had
right,
college guys and girls that are coming in and they're very good and
right.
accomplished. Other guys really really blessed. That guys that threw like 20 meters in the shot and all sorts of stuff and
Yeah,
all that stuff, right? But having somebody that she already came in and her coach is back in Canada. I had gotten to know him over the years of knowing all the Dylan and the other
right,
Canadian guys, and then her high school coach was Garrett Collier. I'd met him years back when he was coaching at Hawaii and some of those places, and his dad actually used to bring the what's it called, KJAX track club from.
mm,
It's a British Columbia club, and Simon Fraser University would come down to Mount Sax. I would always see him at practice.
right,
I got to talking to him. Garrett's dad, Mr. Collier, he had started her out with the hammer. And I'm sure people can go read about the whole story, which is I think Cameron's told everyone that she got started, and it was really funny because when I was at Michigan, he called me and he said, Richard called. He called me. He said, "Hey, I get this girl. She just learned how to throw a hammer. You need to recruit her." I'm like, "Well, I only coach men.
right.
I'm a men's." Well, he's like, "You don't know that. You don't know that. In a few years, you're gonna recruit her." I'm like, "All right, I'll talk to our women's coach."
Wow.
And he's like, "No, no, no. You need to coach her because you know how. Like, I guess he saw something in me. I don't know.
Right.
You know how to do it. So that was his thing, and it was Cameron. It was just hilarious because I'm like, I
Wow.
don't know, some kid in some Vancouver. I don't know what's going on. Although they've had some really amazing throwers
Yeah.
up there,
Yeah.
Jen Joyce, all the other throwers they've had up there. I mean, they've had so many amazing throwers up there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, we'll see what happens. So, anyways, turns out, she came in and we built a team around that, and
Hmm.
they've had some really. I had one of the things I'm really proud about. I had a young lady from actually Riverside, Destiny Parker. She came as a shot putter, but she learned how to throw the
Hmm.
weight, and she'd never really thrown weight. And Coach Higgins actually told me about it. Said like, this girl's going to be good, and she ended up throwing like 21 meters in the weight, and threw the hammer like I think like 62, 63 meters, something like that.
Yeah.
And she'd
Yeah.
never thrown before.
Yeah.
She had thrown a shot on disc, but she became really good, and I think
Right.
she's a teacher now and everything, and
Huh.
that's the part that really makes you happy is when your athletes go on and become really successful. I've had guys that, one guy I coached worked for GE, a couple of, I think 3 or 4 of them became doctors so far.
Wow.
One of them is surgeon and all that stuff is cool too because
Yeah.
not all, like you said, not everyone's going to be professional, but they become successful. So I'm glad that I was able to help those
Right.
guys get to where they're going to get.
You
So
know,
Cameron came in and
well,
we
it's a
had, yeah, go
speak.
ahead, go ahead.
So speaking of Cameron, it's amazing to me. I think about coaches' journeys and what your experience at Michigan, which is probably the more common one, meaning when a new coach comes in, they typically pick their own staff and all that kind of stuff. And here you have a very specific, like, well, the head coach, a throws coach. Here's and I don't want it to be lost. I'm going to say a primarily throws coach, but you are a coach. Like you said, your first all national champions weren't even in throws for crying out loud,
Yeah,
right? But I could see, because I've been through it and through a coaching career and different changes and things like that, where when that happens, Mo, first of all, you moved all the way across the country to Michigan for this with your wife, things like that. You hate moving, all that kind of stuff. And then here, through no fault of your own, you didn't do anything illegal and got
yeah,
fired. You didn't get relieved because you weren't performing. They chose a head coach, and that head coach happens to be a throws coach.
yeah,
And that could feel so devastating of like, ah, I came all the way out here, right? And you go back to Cal Berkeley, which you're kind of like, I'm not sure I ever thought about like this is the career here going to say at Berkeley and things like
yeah,
that. But if that hadn't happened at Michigan, not knowing what other kind of multiverse here, what other forks in the road that
yeah,
could have happened, but you couldn't have coached Cameron at Michigan. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say
yeah,
that wasn't
yeah.
going to happen.
What
It
would
would have
have
been
happened? Yeah,
it would have been
that's the
with the
thing.
women's. And now you go
Yeah,
to Berkeley and it's like, well, and I love that the vision that they had of like, no, you're the right coach for her. don't talk about the women's coach. You got to figure this out. Well, it got figured out because you went to Berkeley and coached all men and
Yeah,
men and
yeah.
women. So
And you always, it's. I guess you learn things through life, right? Things happen. Sometimes when you're in the moment of it, it's horrible, and you're right. It's devastating.
yeah.
It crushes your spirit,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
you know, you just got to learn to pick up yourself and keep moving. Or
That's easy to say looking back, hindsight
yeah.
2020. But
Well, it's hard.
when
Yeah,
you're
no,
in the
no,
moment,
no. There's
that's
noise in it.
tough.
Even talking to you right now,
Yeah.
I can remember it.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
is very difficult because you put a lot of energy, you put your heart and soul into something, and it's pretty tough too because
Yeah.
like for example, my last year at Michigan, we had I don't know, I think we had like 5 or 6 guys qualified for nationals and the throws and multis and all that
Hmm.
stuff, and it
Hmm.
wasn't like you're not getting I mean, if you did a crappy job, you're like, well, I screwed up,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
right.
didn't
Yeah, yeah. If you
make
can
it
say like,
right.
well, I either didn't get this done or I broke a rule. It's like, well, okay, well, that's my
Yeah, but
I did that. When
you
it's like, dude, I was kind of crushing a little bit here.
yeah,
This is
and
not
then
fair. You think about that fair word.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that no,
tough.
it's true. No, that's very true. It's very devastating. But I think one thing you learn, I guess, you don't wish that on anybody. But when you have, a, I hate saying adversity because you sound like a freaking postcard, and it's not that, But when things go wrong, right? Things are gonna go wrong a lot. Things go wrong a lot more than they go right.
Yeah,
To be honest, there's a lot. You break a lot of pots before you make a masterpiece or something
right,
like that. You
right,
could say.
right. Yep.
And the thing is that when you're I guess what I've learned is and honestly it has a lot to do with more with my parents and their upbringing and how like what we went through, there was a revolution and after the revolution you have a war,
Hmm.
like, pretty much during the revolution, and then there's this whole thing, and you gotta figure out a way to keep moving
Hmm.
somehow. So it's not easy. It's not fun. It doesn't like all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm motivated. Let's go do it. It's not like
Right.
that. It's like it's just grinding and
Does your
it's yucky and I don't know.
you
But
just
you just got to keep moving because the opposite of moving is you either check out or
yeah.
you lose. You don't want to you never give up.
Yeah,
Don't compromise basically.
standing still is going backwards.
Yeah.
You just described kind of your parents' background. Do you have a little bit better perspective on when bad things happen? Because losing your job, that's bad, devastating. No, but
Yeah.
going through a war and a revolution, that is 100 times worse than losing a job.
It's
So
like it's like you wake up one day and you're whatever you thought was normal is gone, basically. You just see horrible things and all sorts of stuff. And you know, I think you just sort of become, I don't want to say you become like inoculated against like, okay, something's gonna happen. You just gotta some way, shape, form, whatever, I don't know, figure it out,
mhm,
basically survive, get through it, get over it, under whatever you got to do. You got
mhm.
to fight to get through it because you'll see people that can't get through it and either they fail or their life gets screwed up or
Right.
whatever you're doing goes sideways and you just
Yeah.
it's worse. If
Yeah.
you don't keep moving, it gets worse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like you're kind of like I don't know. There's a forest fire coming. I mean, you can run down this hill, maybe tumble down the hill a little bit, get a bunch of scrapes and bruises or break an arm or something like that, or you can stay in the fire and get burnt. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right. Yeah.
We,
Not break a bone,
we,
but you're
which one
dead.
you want,
Yeah. Right.
It kind of. I mean, I don't want to make light of it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of there's pressure. I think the important thing and you were talking about coaches is have your sort of your support life, outside of that there for you to you have your people,
Right.
who your wife, your children, your family, whoever it is that they're gonna be there for you, and you rely on them, and they rely on you,
Yeah.
and that's really important to do, to because everyone's gonna have it's gonna happen
Yeah.
to every. It doesn't matter. You could be like I don't know. You could be like Elon Musk and be billionaire, but then something happens and you lose all your stocks, then
Yeah.
you gotta
Yeah.
fight. So
I'll have a little less empathy for him
yeah, that's what I mean.
than
Just
you, Mo, on that one.
yeah.
Just saying.
It's like if somebody, you could be on the top of the one day you're on
It's
top
true.
of the world, the next day you're,
That's true. That's
like
true.
this music they play for champions, the Carmina Burana, down, 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 down. If you look at the lyrics, it's like the Wheel of Fortune. one day you're wearing the feathers and people are carrying you on
Oh,
the shoulders, and
right.
the next day you're on the bottom of the hill, like the queen of what was it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like history, so like was it the
Yeah.
queen of what's it called, the Trojans? You know, the Hakuba, she turned into a dog. You know,
Yeah.
you're on top, then you're on the bottom. You got to learn how to
Yeah,
cover
that's
all that
true. That's
stuff.
true. So
Fortune, you know. So
talk
so
to us about your time at Cal Berkeley, because what's
yeah,
interesting to me is, coaching collegiate is its own set of things, right? Recruiting and
yeah,
travel and getting kids qualified to one of the toughest meets in the world, the NCAA Championships, for all that
oh
kind
yeah,
of stuff. There's individual accolades, or depending on your institution, there may be team aspects. It's very, very tough to coach college track and field. Coaching, even at a high level, coaching at the next level, so the kids that are trying to make the Olympics, World Championships, etc., has its own. It's not. I don't believe it's a straight line of like, oh, it's just this much harder. It feels like
no,
it's
it's different.
it's
It's a
steeper,
different. It's. I don't even know if you can say it's steeper or narrower. It's just different.
just different. Yeah, okay.
It's just different. It's a different. It's a different. It's. I guess it goes to your. I mean, how would you say it in a simple way? It's. You got kids that can be in a the collegiate setting. They're great. They're successful. They can do it. When you go to the professional setting, you got to take whatever you learn from your collegiate setting, and you got to be able to apply it to a very different environment. Because the thing is that if you're in a collegiate setting, it's a little bit protected, and
Right.
the stresses are different.
Yeah.
When you go into a professional setting, it's literally your livelihood. You know,
Right.
if you're
Right.
not successful, you're not eating dinner.
Right.
It's
Right.
different. It's like professional
And you lose
more.
so much support, right? Like
Yeah,
uh
you don't have your
trainers, and
yeah.
someone sets up that bus to get to the track meet for you were in college.
Yeah,
You
you
got to do
gotta
the travel, right? Yeah.
you gotta be aware of your stuff. I mean, if you're really good, they'll take care of you. But even then, you need to be much more engaged as a coach and an athlete in terms of what's
Right.
going on. Be engaged in what the process is. The athlete becomes much more independent. I mean, you don't want to hold like I'm a college coach. If Cameron goes to competition, I'm not going to go over there everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different animal altogether.
That's what I was going to ask. So, as your role as the coach, what is the difference between your role, and Cameron's a great example of, I coach Cameron, the college kid, versus now she's a pro. Like, what do you like? I have
The,
to
the,
imagine,
the, the, the daily the daily nuts and bolts of it are pretty much the same. You make the training.
but
We started like that from the beginning, but
but I have
once
to imagine you have less oversight with her, meaning she has to go to Europe for a week and you can't leave because you got the
yeah.
college kid. So there's more Zoom consulting or something like that. That's
Yeah,
different
no.
than being.
Well, the thing is that my thing was with her, for example, or I mean, she wasn't my first. I've had a lot of people before that.
Right, right, right.
And when I learned with, especially like I got, like, I think it was very hard at the time, but I learned is that I coached people that were already well developed. They weren't like beginners. They were like, I've already gone to this. I've done this. I want to go, like, with Amin even. He'd already had a lot of experience. He was great. His training was good, everything, but he wanted to go to the Olympic Games. So how do you do that when
Right,
you don't get to see that, right? How do you put that together? How do you put like other guys together, or somebody comes to
right.
you for consultation? How do you deal with consulting? Like somebody, like, coach, you ask you a question, you better know what the hell you're talking about. You don't
Right.
look like an idiot, right? Or something like that. Uh, that kind of thing, and being able to, like, kind of make, organize your mind, organize your approach to match the requirements of whatever they need to do at the time. And
Mm,
that's a different set of challenges.
right.
But in terms of, like, with which kind of sets up the next group. I mean, I had the group that we running was Cameron. It was Iffy Joyner, the great discus thrower, is All American a couple of times. We had a kid named McKay Johnson. He ended up throwing, actually. When he ended up going to USC to 21:45, I think was number 3 or 4
Wow.
all time in NCAA in the indoor shot. Josh Johnson was a guy who was one of the last, actually, Pac-12 champions in the shot, and Berkeley hadn't won an NCAA championship in the shot since 1983. And we had a kid from Hungary that came, because I've known the
Wow.
Hungarians. They had a shot put run him. Peter Simon was a first Pac-12 champ for the shot since. The guy has the outdoor record. I forgot his name. He had won it in like '83 or something like that, and
Hmm.
to get that and my thing with the college kids is you have to build a culture. Okay, that's really important because when you have a culture in your group of like the team concept, I'm really big on that. I think one of the best things I ever saw, and I think everybody should go watch it, is the Bo Schembechler talking about the team.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's like a 3 minute video or something like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But you watch that, and that's like a blueprint of how do you make a successful team.
Hmm.
You know, believe in what you're doing, believe in your teammates, believe in your coaches, and everyone has a part in it. No
Hmm.
one's higher than that kind of
Right.
thing, and all that. And I think that's building that mindset, a group. Your
Yeah.
group, you're working together, and especially with a sport like the throwing events, you can't hide. I mean, you just
Right.
circle a runway, and there you are, and you got to go do your thing.
Right.
You can't be like, oh, the official, whatever. You can't do that.
Right.
It's very harsh. It's a harsh environment. You get a 18, 19-year-old kid or a 20-year-old kid, you put him in that environment, you expect him to perform this
Right.
astronomical level. And I mean, nowadays with the NCAA, man, you got to be basically world class to have a shot at doing anything.
Mm.
And with that, you have to have this kind of big supporting group, your teammates and your coaches and everybody else that they can rely on when they go out there to do something. They do it.
So double click on that because and full disclosure, I coached. I'm gonna say many. Only had a 10-year career. Mo, you're three times that at this point, right? But I coached a few All-Americans and things like that, right? I never coached the next level, a kid that would go to the Olympics or anything. I've been Olympic adjacent. Like I coached Trey Hardy a little bit, not
Oh,
when
that's
he
good.
went to
That's
the
good.
not when he went to the World Champs or anything, right? But my belief is, so I know when you go from collegiate to pro, there's so many things like we talked about. You lose a lot of your support. You lose athletic trainers, maybe your massage therapist. You lose that guy or gal that's scheduling that bus and those trips and things like that. And to your point, if you don't if you bomb at a collegiate meet, that sucks. But okay, there'll be another meet next week or next season. You bomb at a professional meet, well, you might not eat that night, right? That's your
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
but one of the things I also have thought of why some kids, every year we see kids come out of the NCAA that we think are can't miss, right? They're going to be on the Olympics, boy. They're going to be on they're going to win a medal, et cetera, et cetera. Like, and we see plenty of them that don't make it to that level. And one of my thoughts is because you're talking about the team and the culture, right? When you're no matter what event you are, if you're creating a culture that using Cal Berkeley example, that thrower can see that, oh, what I do affects that 100-meter sprinter, that miler, etc., and vice versa. And you're not competing just for yourself, but you're competing for the team. And I think we can do some extraordinary things when we do that, right? You look at
Right.
relays, right? Using the 4x4, there's plenty of kids out there that can, split 49 in the 4x4, but can't run a 51 in the open. But it's like, man, I got to get this baton to my teammate, or I got to get
Right.
I'm running for someone else, not myself. When you go pro, I think you tell me. This is a philosophy, a theory that I've had for a long time. You can kind of crack the code here a little bit. I believe some people don't succeed because now they're only competing for themselves. They don't have a teammate until they get to maybe a Team USA or national
Right.
team. I think they struggle with like, well, it doesn't matter if I don't do that well. Like it sucks for me. I understand I'm not going to get the paycheck or whatever, but Susie, my teammate, 100-meter girl, she's not going to be mad at me.
Yeah.
Does that play into it at all? That like
Yeah, I think
lose a
yeah, yeah, no,
team?
you're right. You're right. It's a thing. I think it's you need to sort of prepare your athletes if they're elite athletes like that is that when you go compete as a professional, you're also competing. You have a team. You have your coach, you have your physiotherapist, you have your agent, you have your
Right.
whoever. That's a team. Those guys are
Ah,
doing their part. You got to do your part.
right.
I see that. The baseball's going on right now with Otani, right? He's got his coach, he's got his translator, he's got his this, he's playing for the Dodgers. That's his team. But
Right.
all these other people are relying on him to perform. So
Yeah.
even a track athlete, if it's just them, they're also part of a team. It helps them because they're like, I have a group of post coaches, Cameron, Anna, Kaisa, Rowan Hamilton from, Canada, those guys. When they compete, one guy might be in Finland, another guy might be, in Portugal, another guy,
Right.
Cameron might be thrown somewhere else, whatever, and all that. you're still part of that team. You might not be in the same place at the same
Mm.
time, but you're still part of that's a team. That's a group. We're going
So,
together.
so you've got to be able to help that kid, they're still kids,
Yeah.
have that mind shift of like, okay, sure, you're not wearing Berkeley across your chest anymore, but whether it's your throws team or whether it's you
Training
nailed it
group,
there, your agent, your travel,
all that.
that's your team, so that's who you're going to let down if you don't. Like you got to be competing for someone
Yeah.
else.
These guys are supporting you. You get and it helps them because like I feel support. I got these people behind me. I can go
Mhm.
do what I gotta do. That
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and some
And
kids can make that mental switch, and some people can't. I mean, just
it's just
yeah,
very
yeah,
hard. And Cameron came in, and there's a lot of cool stories about all the battles and everything else. And one of my favorite ones is, I always go back to Coach Frazier because in what's it called in 22, he had a young lady by the name of Alyssa Wilson.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
Alyssa is one of the most talented people to ever touch a throwing
yeah,
implement ever in the history of throwing.
yeah.
Absolutely magnificent athlete, great person, really outstanding human being. And I told Cameron, I said, listen, that this is when she already broken the NCAA, defending NCAA champion,
Right.
broke the NCAA record in 21 at the national championship, and that was one of my biggest things. Is I tell the athletes, college, pro, always break records, always be ready for the big competitions, do your very best at the big competitions because in the throwing events, everyone talks about, oh yeah, there was wind, or there was this, or the field was like this, or the official whatever.
Right.
You do it at the major championship, there is no question, no doubt. You can't say nothing. It was on TV
Yeah.
in front of, as my wife likes to say, in front of God and everyone. You know what I mean? You
Yep.
can't,
That's right.
do it at the big stage, so nobody can ask. They can't question it.
Right.
And I said, listen, this is your senior year. And that was the year that actually we get to Mykolas, but I recruited Mykolas. I knew Ehsan Haddadi from Iran. He was a very Olympic silver medal and
Right.
bronze in the worlds and all the Asian record. A very good friend of mine. Actually, he's the president of the Iranian Federation now, which is funny to see because
Oh
he
wow.
was a renegade when he was younger, but now I told him, you kept being crazy, but your worst nightmare came true.
Now you're responsible.
Now you're the bad guy that tells people that
Right.
you gotta do this and that. So, anyways, he got in touch with his family, and we recruited him. And honestly, his parents wanted him to go to a very good school, academic school, and
Mhm.
it just happened that in a way, his coach back home and myself, we have the same coaching ideas and training methods. So it was a very seamless thing. And
Mhm.
he had come in, and I told Cameron, I said, listen, Alyssa is coach is John Frazier, and Frazier was in school when Brenner beat Michael Carter, broke the
Mhm.
NCAA record and
Mhm.
beat him. He was around that, so he
Mhm.
knows what it takes to dethrone a defending champion. And and then in the '90s when John Godina beat Brett Noon. Brett Noon was defending NCAA champion. He beat him and broke the NCAA record.
Right.
He was in LA, and his coach is Coach Venegas.
Right.
He knows how to train someone to beat a defending champion. It doesn't matter if you have the record or not, because I think Carter had the record too.
Right. Right.
So we got to be ready for this because they're gonna bring everything they can to get you,
Right.
which is good in competition. And so there's this whole thing, and I remember I told her like the championship starts in the regional meet.
Hmm.
Forget about Eugene. That's gonna start in Arkansas in Fayetteville.
Mhm.
And it just happened that I told her, I said, look, Alyssa's going to come in. She hadn't lost to any collegiate since 20, I think, April 2019 or something like that. Cameron had not been defeated. She finished her career undefeated. Sorry, I spoiled the ending.
Amazing.
So I said she's going to come in. She's going to break the regional qualification record. That's going to happen. Like first round, she's going to do it. And it just happened by the luck of the draw. Alyssa threw first, a couple of throws that Cameron threw. So went in. Sure enough, Alyssa throws a magnificent throw, 72, 70, maybe three, I don't know what it was. Big throw that was amazing. And at that time, she had transferred out of UCLA to go to Texas State because
Right. With
Coach
John.
Foot the gentleman Texas State, which is great because he's my neighbor now. We can go have dinner sometime together. So that's
Oh
fun.
yeah,
You
that's
know, so
right.
it's right down the
Oh,
street. You know,
oh,
it's
that's cool. I
very
didn't even
cool.
think
So
about
that's
that. That's
great. So
super cool.
John's one of my favorite people on earth. You know, I love him.
Oh,
He's great. He's such a great friend.
that
You
is
know,
way cool. I didn't even think about that. That's true. That's
yeah. So
so
it's yeah. So we didn't get to see it at Pac-12s. Anyway, so we go to sure enough, round one. This is round one of regionals, and Cameron goes and breaks the NCAA record. So the game was on. It ended up working out well, and she became NCAA champion and everything else, and then got to be Barman finalist. And at that time, Mykolas was coming up, and when he first came, he wasn't the biggest guy, the fastest. He was very explosive, very fast, very, very dynamic
mm,
athlete, but he wasn't what people thought as a discus thrower. We
mm,
think discus thrower, you got to be like this, like Daniel
right,
Stahl,
right.
giant mountain,
Right.
but he was very explosive and very, very, very coordinated athlete.
Mm,
So I had to coach him in a way that worked for him.
mm,
And I think this is the part of coaching that's important is if you look at the best throwers in the world, uh, Ryan Krauser, Joe Kovacs that we talked about, I don't know, Daniel Stahl, you know, Chopra, the Indian gentleman that throws the javelin, or whoever
yeah.
it is, or Cameron, or Anita Włodarczyk, or whoever, or Val Allman, or
Hmm.
all these great throwers, right, that we have now, is they're not good at everything. They're good at what makes them be good.
Right.
So the thing is, you got to find what you're good at and be the best at it. Because,
Right.
a lot of our kind of coaching, well, if you go back to this word philosophy, a lot of the coaching philosophy is that you need to be a well-rounded athlete.
Right.
But not necessarily, because you're a very specialized athlete. If you're
Mm,
coaching a throw, you're coaching a hammer thrower, I just need you to be good at hammer throwing.
right.
Now, other things might help you, but at the end of the day,
Ha-
how far
ha-
you throw a hammer pays the bills.
So how do you, okay, so that's by event because I'll say
Yeah,
typically throwers throwing at least two events and probably three, and those
yeah,
crazies that throw all four. But okay, if you got a guy like Alekna or a gal like Cameron who, okay, this is their event, they're a hammer, they're a discus. How do you balance? And maybe you don't. So maybe I should ask this a different way. Do you work on they're good at these three, four things. Let's use it like now. These three or four things at the discus they're really good at, but these three or four things they're actually not that good at. Do you focus on making those three to four things on the top way better? Or do you
yeah.
work on like, oh, okay, if he got better at these bottom three or four things, that will also lift the basement? Like, how do you think about like
the
when we're
the
talking
the
about a good to very good athlete?
the reality of it is kind of sad. Is whatever you're good at, get really good at it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If I'm really elastic and flexible, I'm going to be the most flexible person on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Mykolas was really really good at throwing. It's throwing what things, whatever you give him something to throw, he'll throw it. Give him a shot, give him a weight, give him a shot. The overhead, front.
Mm-hmm.
He's explosive. He can jump. He's very very dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So those are his qualities. Really accentuate those qualities. Like if you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
lift weights, forget about doing 800-pound squats. Get him fast, right? Now eventually he'll become, just by growth and development, he'll get
Right.
there. It's just, but this a lot of this ideas I see, especially in the throwing events, about like you gotta be this strong, you gotta do this, you gotta that. A lot of that stuff comes from the former East German training tables and things, and those are very. Let's put aside all the evil things that goes with that,
Yeah.
but just it's a very monolithic kind of like society. There's not different people there.
Mm-hmm.
They're all about the same. They can go. Yeah, they would go choose people to be athletes.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
know this works for a guy that's like 6'5" and weighs 250. I'm gonna just go and find guys that are 6'5" and 250. It's gonna work great.
Right. Right.
But if you're, our country, what's great about us. By the way, I forgot to mention. In 2005, I became a U.S. citizen.
Oh yeah.
That's
Nice.
one of the most proudest moments of my life. So I was a very
Oh,
proud American. I love
nice.
this country. It's great. And so anyways, just want to throw it in there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But one of the things that if you use somebody else's methodology, you have to know why they did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
important because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know why they did what they did, it's very hard to implement that.
And
I hear people,
if you're not talking to that person,
yeah,
it's hard to get the why. If they're just
just
on
looking
the
at it and saying like,
stage,
or
right?
like even
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
from my own, I mean, you read a book, there's stuff in that Lost in Translation, like the Bill Murray movie, Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
There's things you see, and there's like the reality of it is different, right?
Right.
So understanding why they did what they did
Yeah.
will give you a better insight into how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you're
That's the
thinking
one.
of building a peak on a peak, kind of like if this is their strong suit, I'm going to make that super
Yeah,
strong for
big.
the
Yeah, you
yeah.
got to be good at it. And like for example, with Cameron, I get so many people asking me like, how come she's so strong? I always tell them, go talk to her parents.
Right.
We trained the way we trained. She's just very good at that kind of thing, and
Yeah.
she's good at being strong, and that's what she's good at, and she'll be
Yeah.
good at that. But it's not something that we're like, you have to hit these numbers. It's just she's good at it. She's gonna be good
Right.
at it. Just let her be good at it.
Right.
Or somebody else. You're coaching a sprinter, and the guy might be very good at 400 meter that has a great rhythm of running.
Right.
If that's what they're good at, you don't change that. Make it better.
Right. Right.
I
So
see a lot of times that the coaches will say, "Well, you're not good at this." I mean, if it's a technical point or something that actually is detrimental, must balance or something. Yeah, sure, I get it.
right.
But if they're kind of what they're good at, and they have some weaknesses, you can address those. But if you just focus on that, the stuff that you're good at will, you only have so much energy and time on it. And
Right.
these guys might be coming up, but these guys might be going down. Overall, you might not be getting all you wanted out of the
Yeah.
deal. So
That's right. The coaching job is not to make them a well-rounded athlete. That's for I'll say that's for the decathletes and stuff, but
yeah, yeah,
it's to be the best discus thrower or hammer thrower or whatever
yeah.
event.
Be a
Yeah,
specialist.
that's a
Be
great point. Yeah, be a
be good at
specialist.
that.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Be good at that. You don't need to,
That's a good point.
and being mentally flexible. I think the main thing too. I think in just talking about Cameron Mykolas and some of the great athletes I got to coach is that uh, you have to know how your athlete ticks. What makes them. Somebody's very calm. They don't.
Uh,
I coach Iffy. I always make fun of it, the guys because I never talk to him at meets. Never. He just go on the side and just
yeah.
throw on. He'd look at me, give me a thumbs up, or he'd be like this, coach, help. Okay, hey, do this. Okay, got it. That's how he was. He didn't get fired up. Didn't get nothing. And a bunch of times he wanted to clap for him. He's like, "Don't clap for me." That's his personality. That was how he was. And Cameron needs stress, like for example, this World Championships win, and then I was looking at who's there. I'm like, oh, the American ladies are coming. They're gonna bring something. The Chinese are coming. They're definitely bringing something to the table. I mean, you got people that they're not.
Right.
You need to be in an environment where you need to be. You have that stress of competition for it
Right.
to get going. Someone's like that. I think of course, like another hammer thrower I coach, Anna Purchase from Great Britain. She's very in tune with the movement,
Mm,
throwing movement. So that's her
yeah.
thing. She's in tune with that movement. She does well.
Right.
Worrying about people throwing and this and that doesn't work for her. So you just have to
Yeah.
let her make your throw better, that kind of thing. So you got to understand how your
Yeah.
athlete tick, what it makes it tick.
Yeah.
By the way, one thing I would say about the NCAA championships, my experience now, 30 years of coaching and been a collegiate coach, the NCAA championships, in terms of the mental stress on an athlete, is much higher than even the world championships
Really?
because you got younger people,
Mm,
and it's really in your face.
mm,
Compared to when you go to a world championship, you're representing your country. There's a bit of, I guess I don't want to say lag, but there's a bit of like wiggle room. You know what I mean? It's
mm.
in NCAA championships. Your scholarships depending on it, your
Right.
coaching job maybe depending on it, your whatever, your team, your this or that.
Yeah.
It is very much in your face
Hmm.
all the time.
That's
The whole time you're
interesting.
there, like 4 days, whatever it is. I mean, you're just
Yeah.
so. And then
Well,
the person that's doing it, but when you get to the worlds, there's very rarely do you have very young people at that level.
right,
They've
right.
had some experience. They've gone through some things a few times.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, your average age is much higher than at the, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good
so
point. That's a good point.
that's much more intense experience.
So Mo, as we, start to wrap up here a little bit,
Yeah,
throughout your life, you've had high expectations and what could be some high stress places, right? So you had high expectations from your parents about academics and things like that. As an athlete, I know you put your own stress on yourself and expectations. You go to Northern Arizona, some of those other schools in Northern Arizona. There's an expectation you're gonna perform. You have post collegiates. There's expectations there. Michigan, of course, you had expectations there on what you were going to do in the Big Ten and individual athletes. Cal, gosh, lots of expectations. You get a Cameron, boy, we expect you to. We better set
Yeah.
your
Oh, yeah.
your
No,
targets, right?
people let you know too, for sure. Yeah.
And now, yeah, and everybody's got an opinion on those expectations. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're at a school that I like a lot. There's one thing I wish I could change, and you probably already know what that is. But I love Flo. Consider him a friend. Your decathlon coach is a Garnham is a very good friend,
That's awesome. Yeah.
and other guys and gals that are great people. Texas is one of those. Um, I kind of make no apologies when I say like there's only about five, maybe I could stretch it to 10, maybe schools that are going to win the national title. Whether you agree or disagree, whether you're at a school that you think should be in that top 10 and you're not, sorry. It's just, and maybe it's getting worse, to be real frank with you. I don't know. But Texas is one of those because of resources, because of tradition, because of the state that you're in. That's absolutely a positive thing for the University of Texas to be a flagship school in the overall greatest state of high school track and field. So you're at a place now, not different in the sense of like you've been at Michigan's and Cal Berkeley and Olympics and things like that. So you've had expectations and stress. You're continuing that tradition. Tell me about what's it like. You've only been there, you haven't been there all that long, my friend. So you're still learning maybe how to even get to the office for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's true.
How's fall going at University of Texas? What's
It's
different?
going great. Coming here was interesting because I didn't really think about leaving. I was at Cal, pretty much every somebody would, hey, come over here, come over there.
Sure. Yeah.
My main thing was always, like I said, I want stability. I want to have an environment where I can develop, my athletes and but also myself as a
Right.
coach. And it just happened. Coach Florial called me and said, hey, it it's funny because I never think about people leaving Texas or whatever, but it just worked out the way it did. And he called me up and said, hey, we need a throws coach. Would you be interested? And I was like, are you kidding me? Like Texas? Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like a
Who
no-brainer, man.
who
Like, it's
says
like
no to that question, by the way? Come
yeah, it's
on
like, what?
now.
Are you kidding me? Of course, 100%. So it just it seemed like the right time because the guys were graduating from college. Some of the guys that brought in were graduating. It was like a turnover in the class and all that, and the post collegiate people were in there was a time in their life that it's okay to shift and move on and whatever. So that worked out really well. But I like what Coach Flo had to say. He wants to win. We want to win. That's a thing. I want to do that. I mean, I've had like throwers be at a very high level. It's hard, at Berkeley because it's hard to have everybody go up. Because just the way the school is set up and everything else and
Yeah.
resources, that is very difficult. But
Right.
a lot of support from the head coach to keep that going. But to be able to be part of a team that can go do something like that, that's a whole other level of it,
Hmm.
success that you can get to. It's not obviously it's not easy. It's like, hey, you're from Texas. Here's a trophy.
Right.
The thing is not like that. You got to go get it. But just being part of that, I thought was like, okay, as I'm going through my career now, and I've accomplished, been very fortunate and blessed that I always put this to the blessings of God that gave us all these things. And it's like you get an opportunity like this, you got to take advantage of it and adapt and learn. Obviously, I'm kind of learning how things work and
Right.
recruiting and coaching the kids here and all that stuff. We have a small group right now, but we're trying to bring people in and that kind of thing, and
Hmm.
and uh, just put a team together with all the experience I've had from when I first started coaching all the way to now, and all the
Hmm.
other people, and putting all that together and helping the team here win a championship and
Hmm.
hopefully multiple championships and stuff. But
Hmm.
those are the things that I really like: the stability, the support system.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of hard to ask for anything here because you already have it, So just to have that was a big thing for
Yeah.
me, and it just felt like the right time to do something different. And
Yeah.
here we are. I'm really really happy. Great people to work with. Coach Flo's great. Jim, like you said, Ricky, our other coaches,
Yeah.
and Keela and Sarah, the other
Right.
coaches that are great. They're really nice people. Amazing. Yeah, just to
Yeah.
be part of that is great. But again, I mean, but none of this would have happened if it wasn't for Coach Higgins,
That's
Don,
right.
Coach Frazier. and more than my wife,
That's
obviously
right.
more than anybody else, my family, my brother, all of those experiences, I guess, along the way led to me being here and where
That's
I'm
right.
at, and continue with Cameron, and I think that the highlight of this year was, obviously Mykolas broke the world record in the discus.
Hmm.
It's funny because people forgot that really quickly because Jürgen Schultz's record was the unbreakable record. Now everybody said nobody can ever break that record. It's a 74-meter discus, and the guy did it 3 times.
I know.
Once 1 year, twice in the meet, and hopefully it gets other people into it to go. And the big highlight was Cameron throwing over 80 meters at World Championships.
Right.
Uh, Mostly, we went in. I was always thinking, I'm like, listen, you got people like Brooke Anderson,
Yeah.
Deanna Price, the
Yeah.
Chinese ladies, the guy, the girls from Finland. I mean, I'm like, you're gonna need over 80 meters just to be able to like kind of have a
Right.
breathing room. But that's what was the mindset going in, and
Yeah.
it turned out. I mean, the two Chinese ladies were fought really. I mean, it's 77 plus would have won the previous World Championships.
Right.
You know,
Sick.
so our mindset was to come in and tactical, tactical mastery of the event,
Yeah.
and started like just always start from the beginning in the qualification, start from there, build through the finals. They did a great job with that,
That's cool.
and just to see that in the North American record, which is it's crazy, the people
Yeah.
that won, that's outstanding. So anyway, so that's where
Yeah.
we are
What?
today. So hopefully we keep that going.
So last question then for the day.
Sure.
So you've done, you've had lots of records. You have the world record. I mean, those are, I mean, it's, I always talk about, if you're an Olympian, you're in a fraternity, this big. And if you're a multi-time Olympian, it's like, holy crap, no one's in that fraternity. It's unbelievable. You know, Coaching a world record, being a world record holder is, I mean, there's no one else out there.
You're the
It's just
best
crazy.
ever. No one's ever thrown further.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious, because of your experience and you've coached a lot of people at high levels and now you've coached a world record holder, how far do you think some of these throws can go? Are we at near the cusp, meaning like, oh yeah, we might be able to get, over the next 30, 40 years, another half a meter, or is there still human development and technique and luck plays part of some of this stuff
Yeah.
too, that we can still go three,
You
four,
know,
5, 6 meters more in some of these events?
is it that's a it's funny. The question you're asking, people have asked that question since the 60s. You know, first time I think Randy Massa, Dallas Long or someone like threw the shot over 20 meters and said, "Oh my God, that's not no."
We're
And then
done. Right.
5 years
Mhm.
later, it was like 10 guys, 20 guys threw, and
Right.
then we got to 22 meters. I think Oldfield threw like 75 feet, and then it was a professional meet, but that's the limit, right? And then
Right.
a guy like Krause shows up, which is, oh my goodness,
Right.
the stuff that he's done is just it's incredible,
Right.
absolutely incredible. And you just it's not so much that I don't think it's a physical thing because I think people don't evolve that quickly. Despite
Oh,
I see
right.
this a lot. Oh, people are bigger and better. And no, people are about the same that they were like 20,
Good point.
50, 100, 1,000 years ago. They were probably the same people.
Right. Right.
Nutrition's gotten better. People are healthier now. That kind of thing, obviously, right? But
Hmm.
I don't think there's evolution going on. That evolutionary
Yeah.
scale talking
Good
thousands,
point.
thousands of years. I mean, if
Yeah.
you
Good
get a
point.
time machine and go in the future, you'll probably see something. But
Right. Right. Right.
you know, the way things are now with society, probably for the worse, not the better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's
Right.
the
Exactly.
story. You know. But I think it's more so that in general, people are healthier. We keep athletes healthier than we did in the past. We better ways of keeping them functioning and competitive for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Like you said, it used to be like you win one Olympics and that was your career and that's it.
Right.
You by the time the next one would show up, you're so injured and beat up that you can't even think about it.
Right.
Uh, but I think that's part of it. I think the one thing I've noticed is that in general, observation of training, coaching methodologies become more objective. Okay, which is less sort of like the old days, guys are standing by the track with cigars and stopwatches and fedoras. It's a lot different. Yeah, you got to run until you're, whatever that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that the coaching has become more sort of organized. You can't say scientific because if you want to do that, I think the only place that really did that was the Bono training method, the transfer training with different groups of people. They had all these people that did different things, and he saw which one worked.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't do that. You can't go to like, let's say
Right.
we're in Texas and say, oh, this high school will train this way, all the kids.
Right. Right.
This
Right.
high
Right.
school train, I'll observe those guys, and there's they can't be doing. We're in a free society. We can't do that.
Right.
It's not the way things work. So I think people are becoming more meticulous about monitoring training, and we're learning more about how things work. And that,
Mm-hmm.
and basically more information is disseminated with the internet and
Mm-hmm.
all kind of stuff like that. And the kids are learning things earlier, so they have more time on the task. Those kind of things.
Right.
But I think in general, world records that you notice that they last a lot longer,
Hmm.
right? So some of that stuff, I guess that has to do with other, cheating and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
has to be on and that kind of thing. And I think that makes it more level playing field for
Right.
us. So we can trust the records more now than we did in the past.
Right.
You're
Right.
not going to make these monstrous jumps of performance. But now, I mean, look, what's her name? She ran 47 seconds. That was the fastest time in so many years in 400 meters, right?
Oh, you're talking about Sydney.
Sydney, yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Mhm.
that no one had run that fast.
You know,
But
Flo coached her. You might
yeah,
want
no, I know, yeah, I
you
talked
might
about
want
it.
to
Yeah,
remember that name. Just
yeah,
saying.
yeah, no, yeah. Cindy McLaughlin, of course, yeah. I was thinking about other stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
she ran that time. But it took this many years of. I mean, we've had great 400 runners,
Right. Plenty.
Stephanie
Right.
Richards, and I mean, there's been amazing athletes along the way that have
Yeah.
come through. But it took that much time to get back to that level of
Right.
matching what I've done in the past. But how
Yeah.
far in the
Right.
future can we go? You never know until you see it.
Yeah. Yeah. We never thought someone would run 9:58. We never thought someone would throw
Yeah,
23 meters. I mean, yeah,
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 yeah.
it's a great point.
It
Yeah.
just, but it depends. You just have to find the right person at the right situation with the right together, and
Yeah.
like you said, it's the part of it. Some of it is luck. Some
Someone's
of it
luck.
is,
Right. Right.
yeah,
It makes me remember I had Brooks Johnson on the podcast, a long time ago, and it really affected me. Like me, not the track coach me, but me, the dad, the husband, the business leader. He talked about as a coach when it comes to like world records. He goes, you have to believe that every world record will get beat. He's
yeah.
like,
Of course,
he
yeah,
goes,
yeah,
if
yeah,
not,
yeah,
you're
for
limited.
sure.
And so like I use the men's high jump. I was like, really? I go, no one's come close, really, besides Bashir, to 8 foot and a quarter, 8 foot and a half, whatever it is. And he's like, oh, absolutely, the high jump world record will get broken. He goes, it'll take the right person, the right coach, the right situation, all that. He goes, but you have to, or what the hell are you coaching? Brooks. So he said some more colorful language,
Oh yeah. I'm
but
just
he
gonna
was
go
like,
F bombs in there.
yeah, but he was like, what the hell are you coaching for if you don't think it can be broken? And I was like, dang, like just that, like seeing and hearing his mind work of like, you have to believe in it, or what are you doing? Like, go do something else. Like, it was really mind opening. So it's always good to,
That's very true. I think the important thing is always if you're gonna do something, you like you gotta go for the limit.
yeah.
You gotta go whatever that limit is. You don't know. I mean,
Mhm.
whether it's a high jump world record, a
Yeah.
discus world record, a hammer record, whatever it is, if you don't believe that it's gonna happen,
Right.
you've already lost the battle.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think that's exactly what he said. Then you've already lost. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Good
you
point.
already lost. It's like, okay, well, you don't think it's gonna happen. Why? Yeah, exactly. It's like, well,
What are we
you just
doing?
already put that on your shoulders and you're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think you gotta go like that. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Mo, you big time now. You're at University of Texas, so
Yeah.
you're busy. I see your phone blowing up. Everybody's
Oh
like,
yeah, this
Where's
everyone's getting
Mo
on
at?"
me.
I get it. I get it. My man, one of the most valuable things you can give me is your time, my friend. And so I'm
Thank you.
just so grateful. It's awesome. For I've known you for quite a while, and
Oh, yeah.
you're always impressed. And you matter to me before you went to Texas, before you had the world record, and I know you know that. And so it's just great to be able to kind of peel the onion back and show everybody else who will listen to this podcast, just what background you came in, talk about luck in setting world records. There's a little bit of luck of just the people that have been around you too.
Yeah.
Now, with that, you have certainly concocted your own luck, writing letters to European coaches and going and sneaking into the track. Like you've concocted your own luck in that, and I think that's a valuable lesson of if you put yourself out there, I think good things will happen, and you're a great lesson for that, Mo. I'm so thankful for your story and your journey.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I've known you forever, and I think it's great what you're doing so other people can see it. If you always a couple of things that always stick with me from like coach Higgins will always say, don't forget where you're from,
Hmm.
and if you want to do something, go for it.
I love that.
And then just go for it, and see what happens. And that's that I've just tried to do, and just
You've had
keep
some
building and going forward. So and share
impactful.
with people what you learn. So
You do
that's
a great
important.
job with that, but you've had some impactful people that have said that kind of mantra to you of, hey, if you're going to do it, go
Yeah.
be the best, right? You shared with us that your father's passed away. Is mom still with us?
Oh, she passed away in 24.
I was gonna tell, I was because I knew she'd be listening right now, and I was like,
Oh
man,
yeah,
mom,
no, she's
like,
listening
mom,
someday.
thank you for
Yeah.
how you raised your kid, and I was dad as well. Like,
Yeah.
man, I know they're so proud of you, brother, man.
Yeah.
You're a great leader, and we didn't even
Thank you.
get to touch on exactly what you talked about there. You're a great educator too. I'm very grateful that you share your knowledge and experiences with others as well, because I think that's important for the next level of coaches. I'll be
Absolutely.
interviewing the next level of coaches, and they'll be talking about, yeah, I mean, I met with this guy, Coach Mo, and he taught me this and that, and that's a great legacy because that is you honoring the legacy of the Babbitts, Frazier's, people that
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, for
supported
sure.
you.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for you, man. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time
Thank you,
today.
man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. It was great.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you for being here, man. This we're pumped. This is season 7, baby. We're going into 7 years of the Gill Connections podcast, over 300 and almost 50 interviews. I got no plans to stop. And my boss has said I can keep going, so I'm going to keep going. So we're going to do it again next week. Join us then, and we'll have some fun. See you guys.